What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with what if Naruto was neglected by his parents but loved by his sister Mito? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. Naruto is 4 years old and is heading home after completing his test and passing with flying colors. As he turns a corner to get to his house, one of the many villagers say, "Oi, monster." Quote, Naruto doesn't know that he holds the 9 tails, so he turns around and says, "What monster, where?" Quote, villager replies, "Don't joke. I know what is inside of you." Quote, the villager then walks up to him and starts beating him, punching, kicking and cutting him. Time skip. Naruto arrives home and walks to his parents. He then says, "Mom, Dad, I passed the test today." Kushina walks up to and slaps him and yells, "I hate people who don't tell the truth. Just come out and say you cheated already." Quote, Kushina then walked off to her bedroom and Minato soon followed. Naruto went into the kitchen and got the first aid kit out to start treating his wounds when his sister Mito comes in and walks to the kitchen to see her brother putting medicine and plasters all over his body. She was shocked. She could see all the cuts and bruises on his body and even the newest slap her mom had given him. She went to help her brother when she realized he was crying and whispering, it hurts over and over again. Naruto would have noticed if someone walked into the house, but when he looked up he was surprised to see Mito treating his wounds and then hugging him saying, "It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay." To him over and over again, trying to calm him down. It worked because he had stopped crying and was hugging her back. Naruto then broke the silence and said to Mito, "I am going on a walk for a bit." "Okay." With a smile on his face, Mito just nodded her hard to say okay. With Naruto at the river. Third person. Naruto is standing at the edge of the river crying silently to himself. No one else was there except him in his secret hiding place that not even his beloved sister knows about where he is. Naruto kept whispering, "It hurts." Naruto opened his eyes to find himself not looking at the river but in front of a cage with a sleeping fox. Naruto was shocked and he was panicking. Shocked because he didn't know how he got here and panicking because he didn't know where he was. 9 tails, Kyubi, I think that's how you spell it, if not tell me. Kurama woke up from his long sleep he had been on and looked at the child standing in front of him and just smiled at him. Kurama then asked what was wrong. Naruto explained everything. Time skip. After Naruto had explained everything to Kurama, Kurama handed a mask to Naruto and said, "This only take this mask off if you want to or if they are important to you." When Naruto opened his eyes again he was back by the river and the sun was setting. Naruto started to head home because if he didn't his sister would worry. Time skip. Back home. After Naruto entered their house his mum Kushina ran up to him and hugged him. She said she was sorry and that when she called him a liar when he actual wasn't and that his classmates sent a prank letter saying he had cheated on his test. Then they got a letter from Iruka explaining everything. Naruto simply replied with, "It is okay, I could tell in your eyes that you didn't mean any of it," and walked to his bedroom and shut the door quietly. Mito came out and said, "Mum, Dad, have you not seen all the marks on his body besides the slap you gave him? They were done by the villagers and one even called him a monster." Kushina was shocked and started crying. Minato was also shocked but tried to comfort Kushina first. By this time Mito was still confused as to what was happening. Kushina and Minato looked at her and then nodded to each other as if they were saying it is time. They decided to tell her the truth. After Mito had heard everything her parents had to say, she went to Naruto's bedroom and knocked on the door. Naruto answered with a simple "Come in," and Mito opened his door to be looking at a fox mask her brother wore on his face. Mito then asked, "Can you take the mask off in front of me or do you not want to?" Quote, Naruto removed his mask and his sister smiled at him and hugged him. Naruto then said that when he told her he'd be going for a walk he ended up in front of a cage with a fox behind. He also said that it was orange and had 9 tails behind him. After Naruto explained everything to her about his walk, Mito then told him all about what their parents had told her. Naruto was 1. Shocked. 2. Angry and 3. Confused. 1. Shocked because this was the first he had heard of it. 2. Angry because he had just been told this by his sister instead of his parents and he wants to why him. And 3. Confused because why was it him that had to take beatings so often because of this 9-tailed fox inside of him. Time skip. Deciding teams of 3 for Genin. At Ninja Academy. Everyone that passed was now waiting for their sensei Iruka. Iruka had just entered the room and explained that you will be in teams of 3 or 4. He had finished reading teams 1 to 6. Team 7 is Sakura Haruno, Sasuke Uchiha, Namikaze Uzumaki Mito and Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. Teams 8 to 10 are the same. Mito was happy that she was on the same team as her brother and so was Naruto. Sakura was happy that she was with Sasuke and well Sasuke just had a look of boredom on his face saying he just didn't care. Iruka then explained that they will meet their sensei in the afternoon so they could have lunch now. After lunch, meeting with their senseis, every team has met their sensei except Team 7. They have been waiting for 2 hours and he still hasn't turned up. Sakura was annoyed, Sasuke was annoyed but kept calm and didn't show it whereas Mito and Naruto were talking to each other and forgot the time so let's say they didn't care at all. Their sensei turns up and Sakura yells, "You're late." Their sensei thought his eardrums had just bursted from the sudden yell from his student. He then says, "I don't like you guys. Met me up on the roof in 5. And then he disappears just like that. Sakura and Sasuke start walking up the stairs to the roof and after a minute or so Mito and Naruto just disappear and are on the roof before Sakura and Sasuke. When Naruto and Mito appear on the roof their sensei was surprised. After another 5 minutes Sakura and Sasuke finally arrive at the roof. Their sensei said, "Now let's introduce ourselves." Sakura says, "What is it you want to know and why don't you introduce yourself first, sensei?" "Fine. My name is Kakashi Hitaki. My likes I have no reason to tell you. My dislikes still have no reason to tell you. My hobbies reading and other things. My dream don't want to say." Quote, Sasuke, Mito, Naruto and Sakura all thought we only found out your name. Now let's start with you, and points to Sasuke. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. I don't particularly like anything there are a lot of things I hate my dream no my ache meant is to kill someone. Naruto thoughts, I bet it is Itachi Uchiha. Kakashi thoughts, I knew it. Single quote, next is you, and points to Sakura. My name is Sakura Haruno. I mean the one I like is. My dream is too. I don't like Naruto and Ino Pig. Quote, Kakashi thoughts she is just a fangirl. Not many girls are interested in this kind of thing anyway. Naruto and Mito thoughts were she is just as stupid. Next you, points to Naruto. My name is Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki. My likes is my older sister and ramen. My dislikes are waiting for the ramen to cook. My dream is to become Hokage. Quote, Kakashi thoughts he seems like an idiot. Last and not least is you, and points to Mito. My name is Mito Namikaze Uzumaki. My likes are my family and the village. My dislikes are, I don't think I have any I don't think. My dream is to help someone overcome beatings for no reason. Quote, Kakashi thoughts she isn't what I expected her to be and I bet she wants to help her brother because of the 9 tails. Alright, now that the introductions are done, met me at training ground 7 at 7 AM tomorrow. Oh, and don't eat breakfast, you could be sick. Bye bye. Sasuke heads home with Sakura following him and he just wants to train so he is trying to get away. Naruto and Mito head home to tell their parents all about today. They get home and tell their parents everything. Minato looks happy because they are getting reached by one of his students when he was a teacher. Mito and Naruto noticed this but just let it slide. Kushina was happy that both of her children graduated and are now work their way up to becoming true genin. That day was probably one of their most happiest days. Naruto didn't have any new beatings. Minato and Kushina were proud of their children and Mito was happy that her brother was now acting like was part of a proper family. It is 7 o'clock in the morning and all of Kakashi's students are waiting on him. When he finally arrived, which took 3 hours, the first thing he gets are ears full of "You're late" from Naruto, Mito, Sakura and Sasuke. When Sasuke shouted "You're late," everyone was surprised, even the guy himself. He didn't know he could yell but they all shrugged it off. Time skip. Kakashi explains their test. Kakashi Pav. After explaining the test to my students and setting the timer for 1 PM, they all went to hide, even Naruto, and I was shocked but I could see the seriousness in his eyes, which reminds me of my teacher when I was a student, and by the looks of things I think Naruto and Mito have got the answer to this test. I am not so sure that Sasuke and Sakura have caught on to it yet, but they will by the end of this test. No one's Pav. After Kakashi had sent everyone away, he was surprised to see that Naruto had gone and he thought that he wouldn't get it. While everyone was hiding, Kakashi decides to read his ICHA Paradise Tactics book. Mito in Naruto anime fell from the tree and Sasuke just face-palmed and Sakura was confused as to why he was reading that book. After 2 minutes Sakura couldn't take it and decided to come out of her hiding place and confront him. Mito, Naruto and Sasuke all thought, what the hell is she doing? Does she not get what he is doing? While Sakura went to attack Kakashi, she suddenly got lifted off of her feet by Naruto. Kakashi and everyone else besides Mito were shocked. Naruto then disappeared back into the tree he and Mito were already in. "I'll go and get that Uchiha brat," Naruto whispered to Mito, and with that he disappeared and reappeared in an instant with Sasuke over his shoulder. Naruto then started to explain what this test was about with Mito's help on some parts, because he would have had to explain it in difficult terms they wouldn't understand. After the explanation, Sasuke was stubborn and said even if he did understand what this task meant he still wouldn't team up with them because he thought they were all under his level. Sakura only followed Sasuke. After saying what he had to say, Sasuke disappeared without a trace. Mito and Naruto just sighed and continued with the task at hand and didn't care what Sasuke and Sakura did. Sasuke vs Kakashi. While Naruto and Mito were discussing what to do to get the bells, Sasuke was just beginning to fight his sensei. Sasuke and Kakashi had started fighting. They were doing taijutsu, close combat, hands and feet. When they broke away from each other they started ninjutsu, same techniques only she knows or that they have mastered. Sasuke is an Uchiha, so he specializes in fire-style jutsus. When fighting Kakashi he can use any styles of jutsus because he has the nickname Copycat Kakashi. He has copied over 100 different jutsus. Sasuke then yells out fire-style jutsu. Fire style, Fire Phoenix. This jutsu can create a fire around shuriken and can injure your enemy but not enough to kill them. Kakashi sensei dodges it since he had already mastered that jutsu. After Kakashi had dodged that attack he decided to do an earth-style jutsu that traps your opponent in the ground with just his or her head out of the ground. After Kakashi had that jutsu done he was back at the stumps in an instant. After Sasuke's and Kakashi sensei's fight. While Sasuke is fighting Kakashi sensei, Mito and Naruto are just standing in a tree watching them and observing them. When Sasuke finally touches a bell, Naruto disappears from the tree to behind Kakashi and takes all the bells, and then he reappears but his sister's side. With Sakura. After I left Naruto and his sister I decided to make my way towards Kakashi sensei, and when I wasn't that far away from the stumps I noticed Sasuke with just his head out of the ground. I went over to where I saw him, and when I confirmed that it was him I fainted on the spot. After I was awake I found Sasuke out of the ground, and with that we both headed to the stumps where our sensei was. No one's pav. Naruto, Sasuke, Mito and Sakura were all at the stumps. Mito and Naruto were smiling at each other because their sensei still hadn't noticed the illusion of the bells. Sasuke and Sakura arrived after the timer went. Kakashi was standing there wiring for Mito and Naruto but was surprised when the pair of them got rid of the illusion around them and was sitting there behind him. Kakashi then said, "Since none of you could get the bells from me, you all." Mito and Naruto then spoke up before he could finish what he started, and they said, "Who hasn't got the bells, sensei?" Kakashi went to check the bells and they disappeared right before his eyes. Once his attention was off of his pouch where the bell had once been, he saw Mito and Naruto smiling at each other, and then they both held up the bells. Naruto then handed one to Sasuke and the other to Sakura. There were only 3 bells and the ones who had them were Mito, Sasuke and Sakura. When they had a bell Naruto didn't because he gave his away. Naruto noticed that Kakashi was smiling, and then Naruto spoke, "Sensei, I know what your test was about, so now you can get that grin off of your face and tell us." Everyone was shocked, even his sister, which was very unusual. Their sensei was also shocked but let it slide and then said this, "You pass. None of you will have to go back to the academy because 1 or 2 of your teammates seem to understand what this test was on, and you are all lucky that they got it." Quote. Kakashi then said this, "Naruto, if you knew, why didn't you explain it to everyone and then work as a team? Wouldn't that have made it even easier to get the bells?" Quote. Naruto then spoke and said, "I did explain it to them, sensei, but what stopped them was Sasuke Gaki, brat, ego and Sakura's obsession with Sasuke. It was already easy when Sasuke was fighting you, that is how I took the bells without you noticing." Quote. Kakashi then breaks the silence and says, "Meet me back here at 8 o'clock for our first mission." And after he said that he disappeared. Sasuke, Sakura, Mito and Naruto. Then they all left the training ground. Sasuke walked off to his house and Sakura followed him. Now he was really annoyed by this. Naruto and Mito could see this on Sasuke's face and they both laughed at it. They found it seriously funny. They were like this all the way home. They reached home. Minato and Kushina were sad because their son had not taken off his mask since he got it. All through his life he had not taken off his mask unless he was with Mito alone or it was important. He didn't take it off for his test with his other members either. They were wondering why he wouldn't until one thing came to mind, the beatings he got. He does it so he doesn't have to suffer anymore, both his parents thought. After they both thought about it and talked with each other and their conversation just finished when both of their children walked in. They could see Mito was smiling but were just guessing that Naruto was smiling too. Kushina spoke first and asked, "How did the test go?" Mito replied a bit excitedly, "We all passed. The whole team did." Quote, Minato was next, "That's great. Naruto, we have something to talk to you about. Is it okay if we talk now?" Naruto just nodded then asked, "What is it you want to talk about?" Quote, Minato looked at Kushina and Kushina looked at Minato. Then he said, "It is about the mask that you wear. Do you know who gave it to you and where it came from?" Naruto replied with this, "I know where it came from but I don't think you want to know who gave it to me." Quote, Kushina asked this, "Please tell us who gave it to you and why you are covered in bandages." Naruto took a shaky breath and said, "The Kyuubi gave it to me." He Aslo said his actual name is Kurama and doesn't like being called Kyuubi. "I am covered in bandages because the villagers beat me on a regular schedule unless I wear this mask that Kurama gave me." Quote, Kushina had tears in her eyes. Minato was shocked because he didn't realize that the villagers were doing it. Naruto then said, "Dad, I know you are the Hokage but do not tell the villagers what you have told you and don't help me with the beatings either." Quote, Minato was shocked and so was the rest of his family. But Naruto didn't let him finish and said, "I can take my mask off in front of you because you are my family but I will not take it off when outside in the village or outside of the village doing missions with my team. I will now remove my mask for you." And Naruto did just that. Next morning, after Naruto has told his parents and his sister about the mask, he decided to not wear his mask when in the house but when he left he would put it on. He walked downstairs to find breakfast was already made and his family were sitting waiting for him. He sat down while say, "Good morning mom, dad, sis." They all smiled and said, "Good morning," back. He smiled for once in the past 4 weeks. Mito and Naruto thanked their parents for breakfast and were out the door to meet their sensei for their first mission. Naruto almost forgot but went back and out his mask on and left. With his team, it was the correct time to meet Kakashi sensei but like always he was late. Let's just say the whole team were waiting a full 4 hours before he turned up to give them their first mission. "Your first mission is babysitting Hiroshi's children while he goes out," Kakashi said. Naruto's sweat dropped and yelled, "You are joking, sensei." Everyone was shocked. This was the first time he had spoke to them besides their test. Mito was shocked to hear the person's name but wasn't shocked about Naruto yelling. Sakura then spoke and said, "It can't be that bad, Naruto." Naruto replied, "Sakura-san, you don't know what those kids can be like. Even Mito will agree with me." And Mito just nodded her head. The other members of their team seemed confused by Mito and Naruto's reactions but just left it at that. Time skip. At Hiroshi's house. "Welcome to my home," said Hiroshi as he welcomed them to his house. Naruto walked in like owned the place and then next was Mito. Sakura got slightly mad and said, "You two at least introduce yourself." Hiroshi just laughed and said, "It's okay, don't worry, they have been here a few times already." Quote, Kakashi, Sasuke and Sakura were surprised by this but surged it off and walked in. When Naruto walked in he was prepared for something to happen so everyone there were waiting for an attack but when they looked at Naruto before they realized he wasn't standing but on the floor with 3 children on top of him hugging him. Naruto then yelled, "All right, get off of me." All 3 scrabbled off of Naruto and stood. Mito went over to them and ruffled their hair. Naruto spoke, "This is Daisuke," and pointed to a boy with dark blue hair. He is wearing a black top with blue shorts and blue shoes. "This is Toshi," and pointed to a boy with dark brown hair. He is wearing a red top with black shorts and black shoes. Mito says, "This is Nagisa," and points to a girl with long light brown hair. She is wearing a light blue top with dark blue leggings and blue shoes. Hiroshi came in and said, "Goodbye. Don't cause Naruto and Mito's team too much trouble, okay?" And with that he left walking into town. After Sasuke walked in, all three children walked up to him and said, "So cool." Naruto and Mito walked into the sitting room and sat down, both saying, "At least Uchiha Gaki can distract them for a moment." Then they both sighed. Kakashi asked the three children, "What do you want to do?" They all said, "You know the drill," and smiled. Mito and Naruto sighed and said, "Sensei, you will regret ever saying that," and both yelled, "Transform." And Naruto turned into a fox and Mito was a wolf. Sakura picked up both of them and said, "How cute. The pair of you are so cute." Nagisa took Naruto and Ito from Sakura and said, "Alright, go hide." Before both of them hid, they both said, "Sensei, you will regret this," and left. His whole team was a bit shocked. Daisuke spoke, "The drill is Naruto Nissan and Mito o Nissan go and hide while we track and catch them." Quote, a few minutes later, Daisuke, Toshi and Nagisa start walking up the stairs. They started looking around for clues as to where they could be. Nagisa notices that there are scratch marks on the tree. She then said, "I bet Naruto Nissan did it. I bet he tripped over that tree root and attached the tree to stop from falling." Kakashi also noticed something else but didn't say anything because Toshi also noticed it. Suddenly Naruto's voice said, "Well done. You have found me and Mito, but can you catch us?" As he and Mito jump off of the ceiling and jump out the window and escape. After Naruto and Mito had jumped out of the window in the hallway, the three children ran after them. Daisuke, Toshi and Nagisa were outside with Naruto and Mito in front of them. Toshi said, "Earth release, mudslide." Naruto and Mito slide down the path that they once stood on. Then Nagisa did a jutsu that catches your opponent in a net made from roots out of the ground. After Nagisa had said that jutsu, their dad had returned to see everyone outside and he knew what was going on, so he just laughed. Naruto was mad now. He yelled, "Okay, now let us out." Mito just nodded her head. Their dad Hiroshi asked Nagisa to undo her jutsu that she just did. She nodded her and undid the just you. When Mito's and Naruto's feet hit the ground, they were back in their human form and Naruto hid behind a tree because he didn't have his mask on. Naruto then said, "Mtio, would it be okay if you went to get my mask, because if I went it would sort of cause trouble for me even if my team and everyone else knows my name. You sort of understand after what I told you yesterday, right? Please get my mask for me." Mito went over to her brother after collecting his mask and handed it to him, and after Naruto had his mask in his hands he thanked Mito and smiled at her and then put on his mask. Mito smiled back at him and said, "You're welcome." Kakashi, Sasuke and Sakura were shocked to see him smile. Naruto then asked, "Kakashi-sensei, what is our next mission?" Kakashi replied with, "Fixing a house not far from here." "Why do you ask?" Quote, Naruto replied, "Well, Hiroshi Nissan, I will see you later. I asked because I was going to start the whole house before you guys got there. Mito will lead you out." "Okay, Mito Nissan?" Mito just said, "Okay, Naruto, we will meet you over there. Try not to get too much done before we arrive, okay?" "Okay, Mito Nissan." And Naruto went ahead to start their next mission. "Well, goodbye, Hiroshi Nissan. Me and Naruto will see you later, okay?" After Mito had said that to Hiroshi, she led the rest of her team to where their next mission was, and when they got there the house was almost complete. The windows were done, the roof had been repaired and the garden was perfect. All that needed to be done was the body. Mito spotted her brother and went over to him with the rest of their team slightly behind her. "Naruto, why did you leave the main body?" Mito asked. "Nissan, you're here and so is the rest of the team." Naruto went to stand up but fell down and landed on his side. His sister rushed over to him and so did his team. "Naruto, what's wrong?" asked Mito. "Nissan, I will explain, but I need my mask that is by the door's house, and don't touch or move me, my body hurts." After Naruto had said that, Mito rushed to get his mask. She came back with it and put it on his face. Naruto then put his body against the tree he was sitting at, well, lying at, should I say, but anyway he started to explain what had happened. "It would seem my mask fell off of my face, and when it did, one of the many villagers in our village had seen my face. He started to kick, punch and hit me. I knew why. I let it happen, of course, as you can see, but what I didn't realize was I had used most of my chakra to rebuild this house with my kage Bunshin. Next thug was he grabbed my kunai and stabbed me on my left arm and in my right leg. He then decided to slightly cut the tip of my right leg and drew it all the way to the top of my knee, so yeah, that is pretty much it. Nothing serious. Don't worry, okay Nisan. And Naruto smiled at her. Mito then asked Sakura if she had some bandages and medicine. If she didn't, she said to have a look in the house to see if there was any. Sakura ran into the house and pulled out a first aid kit from the cabinet in the kitchen and ran over to Mito and Naruto. She handed the first aid kit to Mito, and Mito had grabbed bandages and medicine for cuts and beatings. She then took off Naruto's shirt and started treating the wounds on his left arm and the bruises all over his upper body. After she had treated all his upper body from the cuts and bruises, she went and picked Naruto up and helped him walk over to the house. Inside the house, after Mito had took Naruto to the house, she ran outside again and packed the first aid kit away and ran with it back to the house. Their team was watching Mito treating Naruto. After Mito had brought the first aid kit back into the house, she saw her brother trying to stay awake. On instinct, Mito shook Naruto and he was wide awake then. Their team had just walked into the house to see Naruto with no trousers on, because Mito took off Naruto's trousers and had already started treating the cuts and bruises on his legs and the cuts he had gotten from the villager. After 20 minutes Mito was finished, but she told Naruto, do not, and I mean do not, move your body from this place till the rest of us have repaired the body of this house, since you have done the roof, garden and windows already. Quote, Naruto just nodded his head and almost fell asleep until his sister asked him, Naruto, you also need to take your mask off, but that means that they are teammates now, your face, so if you don't want them to know what you look like, I suggest you go into one of these bedrooms in this house. Quote, Naruto. At this point Naruto had his trousers on, replied, Nisan, take my mask off of my face please. I want my team to know something. Okay. And Mito did just that. She took off Naruto's mask and soon his team could see his face. Kakashi was slightly surprised, but Sakura and Sasuke were shocked. They could see a boy who was no older than 12, so around the same age as them, with blonde spiky hair and ocean blue eyes that looked broken and sad, but that all changed when he looked at Mito. His eyes held happiness in them and he smiled softly. He looked so sweet and cute. But his team was still wondering something. What was it he had to tell us? But kept their mouths shut and decided he will tell us when he is ready. Naruto then spoke, Kakashi, Sasuke and Sakura, I have something to tell you. You all know the story of the 9 tails, right? That all nod their heads. Well, you know the 4th Hokage sealed the 9 tails, right? They all nodded. Well, the 9 tails is actually sealed inside me. So I can now understand if you hate me and want to kill, but don't not kill me while my mom, dad and Mito are around. They would go ballistic and would be on a lot of sorrow. The whole village would end up in a disaster. Oh, also something else, if I do die, the 9 tails won't kill anyone. The time he attacked the village, he was being controlled by a masked man who only my dad has fought when protecting me, my mom and my sister. They were practically speechless until Mito came in and said, are you guys actually going to start this so we can finish this in the next 30 minutes? Quote, they all snapped out of their gaze and nodded at Mito, and soon it was done in 30 minutes. Mito, Sasuke, Kakashi and Sakura headed back into the house to see Naruto asleep on the couch with a peaceful look on his face. They all smiled because they only imagined what he went through after the Sahi getting treated by Mito. Mito asked Kakashi, would it be alright if you could lift him onto my back? Mito also put on his mask and tied it so it won't fall off while on her back. Kakashi just said, okay, and put Naruto on Mito's back, and they started heading to the Homage's office. At the Homage's office, Kakashi knocked on the door in form of him, and there was any answer saying, enter, and he did. It was my team before me. Then came Mito with Naruto on her back. When Mito entered the Homage's office, he stood up suddenly and asked Mito to come over to him with Naruto, and Mito walked over to him. He took Naruto off of Mito's back and told Mito to go and get Kushina now. Once he had said that, she disappeared. The Hokage looked down at the now sleeping Naruto and took off his mask. The Hokage looked so sad as he set down Naruto on one of the sofas. It was silent until Mito appeared in the middle of the room with Kushina. Kushina walked fast over to the Hokage and cried, with the Hokage rubbing her back trying to calm her down. The Hokage revised that his team was still here. He stood up and mentioned for them to take a seat on the couch opposite of them. The people standing by the door were confused but sat down on the couch that the Hokage mentioned for them to sit on. The Hokage then started to explain everything. After the long explanation, A few seconds after the Hokage finished the long talk, there was movement on the opposite couch from them, and they looked over to see Naruto sat on the couch with Kushina hugging him and Mito ruffling his hair. The Hokage then walked over to him and he put his mask on and walked over to a comber that was on the dark. The Hokage, or should I say Minato, walked over to him and asked him to remove his mask. Naruto removed his mask and walked back to his team and family and sat down. Minato then asked Naruto a bunch of questions and answered them, not caring what he said. After Minato had finished asking Naruto all those questions, Naruto looked like he was about to fall asleep again until he remembered that he had to tell Kurama what was going on. Everyone, I might not be with it at all in a few minutes because I will be talking to the Nine Tails, or Kurama as he has said is his proper name, said Naruto. Minato asked Naruto, Naruto, are we able to enter your mind with you if we touch your head to see what is going on? Naruto just nodded. Everyone was now interested to see what it is like for a Jinchuritsuki, so they all put a hand on his head, and now they were inside Naruto's mind, all his teammates and his family. Inside Naruto's mind, when everyone opened their eyes, they now saw a cage with a fox behind it. Naruto was the first to move and said, "How you doing in that cage, Kurama?" Kurama replied with, "Fine, what is it you want, kid, and why are there others with you?" "Oh, these people, well, I have my mom, dad, sister, sensei and teammates with me. I will tell you about that later. What I want to know is who was the one that gave me these injured when my mask came off, and are you able to replenish my chakra as well as your at the same time?" Quote, everyone else just stood there while Naruto and Kurama has their chat. "I can replenish both our chakra, but that would mean you won't be able to do missions, or if your Hokage lets you, you can only watch them. As for the person that beat you, he wasn't from this village, more like he was a Rouge ninja or the Akatsuki that are after you because you hold the most powerful beast there is inside you," Kurama replied. Naruto just nodded to Kurama's reply and left his mind. Outside Naruto's mind, everyone snapped their eyes open and were in deep thought about what to do till Minato spoke. "If what we just heard is correct, Naruto, you are only to watch how your teammates work. Me and the Anbu will find out about the Akatsuki, and Kushina will help Naruto understand the Nine Tails. Is everyone okay with that? And don't tell anyone about what you have heard or seen or anything else in room, understand?" All replied with a yes, and went home for the day. After everyone left the Hokage's office, Naruto, Mito and Kushina were still there. Minato then asked, "Naruto, if you can talk to Kurama, have you been able to control his chakra, or have you not reached that point yet?" Quote, "Dad, I have control of his chakra. If I didn't, he wouldn't answer my questions that I had, and he would have tried to attack all of you who were with me inside my mind," Naruto replied. "Okay," Minato finally answered. After Naruto had explained everything to his family, he then remembered that his team now knows all about this. Naruto then sat there in shock and he didn't speak. Everyone then got worried. Mito was first to speak. "Naruto, are you with us?" Naruto shook his head and answered with a, "Yeah, don't worry." But they were all doing it. They could see that Naruto had the color drained from his face. "Naruto, honey, are you okay? You are looking a bit pale," said Kushina. "I am fine." "No, I am not. My whole team now knows what I have been keeping a secret, and I thought it would remain like that." "Hokage-sama, please tell me you told them not to say a word to anyone," Naruto said, freaking out a bit. Everyone looked confused, but Minato said it again. "They know not to tell a single person about what they had or saw today. You can confirm it with your sensei and your other teammates tomorrow." "Okay." Quote, "Okay," Naruto replied. After their conversation was over, the whole family headed home. At home, after they all got home, Naruto went to bed. Mito, Minato and Kushina all sat in the sitting room and started talking. "Why do you think he didn't want to tell his teammates? And that he only wanted us to know?" stated Kushina. "I don't think he wanted his teammates to know because he thought they might start to hate him, as he is already hated by the villagers, and we did ignore home for a certain amount of time to teach Mito in case he went wild, but all that did was bring him more suffering, and we didn't notice all the beatings he got from them." Minato answered the questions Kushina had asked. "I just think he is scared. I mean, look at his childhood. This all happened when was 3 to 4 years old. He hadn't got a clue as to what was going on at all, and even if you two did ignore him, I would always comfort him. When he would deal with his own wins, he would always whisper, it hurts," over and over. He never yelled it out. He would always put on a smile and just walk in like nothing happened, but with me he was himself, the small, scared kid that always wanted love and comfort from someone or anyone for that matter. We are lucky that he is who he is. I wouldn't want to change that at all for anything," Mito said. Minato and Kushina were shocked as to what they were hearing. They never thought that he would just brush it off and deal with it himself. They thought if he needed it he would always ask. They were clearly wrong. Naruto had just walked out of his room and headed downstairs and into the kitchen. He started making food because it was 7 p.m. and they hadn't eaten dinner yet. He made something for his whole family. After he had finished, Kushina had yelled for him. They still thought that he was still in his room, but in fact he was in the kitchen. He hadn't made a noise when doing dinner, so they didn't know. Naruto walked into the sitting room and saw that they were all sitting down waiting for him to arrive. He then decided to ask, "You called for me, Mum?" "No, wait, Lady Kushina." Quote. Though were stunned, they thought he wouldn't address them so formally. Yes, I did call for you. Me and Minato wanted to apologize for ignoring you to teach your sister. I hope you will forgive us." Quote. Naruto spoke no differently. "Okay, then I accept your apology, Lord and Lady Namaxi Uzumaki. Oh, by the way, I think you guys should. There is food for you all on the table in the kitchen. Since I have already eaten, I will be heading to bed. And you all have nothing to apologize for. This was my own dalit that I am covered in scars and that the villagers hate me. If you need me, I will be in my room until you call then." And with that he vanished and was in his room in a matter of seconds. The next morning everyone was up and they had all had breakfast, but Naruto wasn't at home. In fact, he had already left just as they started eating breakfast, and now he was waiting for his teammates to show for the mission that they're doing today. With teammates, Naruto, Mito, Sasuke, Sakura and Kakashi were now in trees catching a cat. That was their first mission. Their next mission is to babysit an old man's grandson. Everyone on the team wanted to ask Naruto about what his childhood was like, but they never got the chance, or it seemed more like Naruto would avoid that topic, or he would just move on to the next mission so that he didn't have to discuss it. Mito would always go with him so that she didn't do it for him behind his back. Naruto had finally flipped his lid. He yelled, "Again. We are catching that cat again. That is the 5th time this week." Quote. Kakashi sighed and said, "Yes, we are catching that cat again. For now, put up with it, okay, Naruto." Quote. Naruto didn't reply and just went to capture the cat. Kakashi, Sakura and Sasuke were getting ready to get the cat when Naruto came out of nowhere with the cat in his arms asleep. They were shocked to see the cat asleep in Naruto's arms. They all head back to the Hokage's office to report. Naruto and Mito got there before the rest of their team, so they didn't talk about his childhood. In the Hokage's office, Kakashi, Sasuke, Sakura, Mito and Naruto had all just reported to the Hokage and were about to leave when the Hokage asked Kakashi, "Has Naruto spoke to your team about his childhood and why he wouldn't want you guys to know what is in him for a certain reason?" Quote. They all shook their heads and looked at Naruto only to see him with his head looking at the floor of the Hokage's office. "Naruto, will you please tell them? I know you don't want to, but you will eventually have to tell them." Naruto nodded his head and turned to look at his team. "My childhood was awful, but it was worse than yours. My childhood was. It was just horrible. Everywhere I went I would get awful looks as if I wasn't human. They would kick, hit and punch me. I would even come home to a house that looked like home, but my parents would be too busy teaching my sister how to control me if the beast inside me went out of control. I would always go to the kitchen, get the first aid kit and treat my wounds myself. The only one who loved me back then was Mito, my older sister. She would always help me treat my wounds and she would do the most things that parents should do, but it was my older sister who acted like my parents. I didn't want to tell you because I thought if I did you would all act the same as the villagers, considering what is inside is the 9-tailed fix that once tried to destroy this village. But know this, the one who seals that beast inside me is the 4th Hokage. He is also my dad, my mom is Kushina and my sister is Mito. I have tamed that fox, and what he has told is that he was being controlled by a masked man. He had one eye that was a Sharingan and the other was different, so he defiantly was an Uchiha, but I doubt it was Sasuke-san's big brother Itachi. I should also let you know I don't consider the Hokage as my dad but as the Hokage and Hikage only. That is the same as Lady Kushina. The only people I consider family is Mito and Iruka. Oh, no more thing, I know everything about everyone in this village. That includes what your left eye contains, sensei. Oh, and I don't consider this village a home. If you kick me far enough, Hokage-sama, but I will build a little house outside the village and live there only because Mito Onisan and Iruka is here. If they need protecting I will protect them. Someday you may see your mistake, but when you do it will be all too late. Quote, the Hokage was surprised, and so was everyone else for that matter. Mito wasn't surprised. She knew what the village had done to him and hated them for that. Dad, if you went through his life, I am sure you would be saying something slightly different from what he is saying now, and that goes for anyone. He probably has more hatred than you, Sasuke. In every village there will be someone hates because they carry what Naruto carries. Added Mito. After Naruto told them everything they wanted to know, he left by jumping out a window and running home. His sister disappeared in smoke and arrived at their doorstop. At home, Naruto and Mito were at home. Naruto was in the kitchen cooking dinner for when everyone else arrived home. It was silent at the Namaki's Uzumaki house that night. Next day, Naruto and his team were in the Hokage's office waiting for their mission when the Hokage said, I will be giving you all an C-rank mission for today since I don't have any more D-rank missions left. Quote, they all said, okay. Sasuke, Sakura and Kakashi were shocked to hear that the Hokage have them this C-rank mission. Naruto and Mito just couldn't care and stood there not having a care in the world. The Hokage called for someone. The person he had called for had entered the room and looked at them. Then the Hokage asked him to introduce himself. My name is Tazuna. I would like to go back to my home in the land of waves. After they all left the Hokage's office, they all started to get ready for the mission that the Hokage had gave them. After they are ready, Mito, Sasuke, Sakura, Kakashi, Naruto and Tazuna were ready. They headed away from Konoha and started making their way to the land of waves. Tazuna wasn't happy that he got left with a bunch of kids and an adult who couldn't care. On the way almost by the river, Naruto has noticed a puddle. Naruto's mind. Kurama's pav. Kid, you are being followed by Chunins. I know Kurama. Can you tell exactly who they are though? Asked Naruto. They are the demon brothers that vowed their loyalty to you when you were only 3 years old and you went on missions that your father doesn't know about because you always wore a mask to keep hidden. Replied Kurama. Alright, I will have to find out what they want with old man Tazuna. Outside Naruto's mind. Say Tazuna-san, why do you want protection for you to go back to your village if you can just walk there by yourself? Asked Sakura. Tazuna sighed and started to explain everything. I wanted protection because at this moment me and some of the villagers are building a bridge to come cut to the mainland so we can get all of our food and resources that we need. Our part of the land is really poor, so we can't afford much, and as such there are children on the streets begging for food because we don't have enough money. Quote, Sakura's face had saddened. She didn't realize that there are some awful things in this world. The one who caused all of this is a guy Gato. Said Tazuna. Kakashi had just sensed that they were being followed and looked at Naruto to see him on guard. How did he know we were being followed before I could sense them coming out way? From now on I am going to need to keep an eye on him just in case something could happen. Single quote. After that thought they were attached by unknown ninja that nobody knew but Naruto. They were all unhurt, ready to protect Tazuna. One of them attacked with chains. They had caught Kakashi. Sakura yelled, Kakashi-sensei. After that attack they started to aim at Naruto, but Sasuke intervened between the chain and Naruto. Kid, you have a cut on your and it contains poison in it. Said Kurama. Great. Naruto had pulled out his kunai and stabbed his right hand in where the cut was. Sakura grasped and started to get bandages and medicine for his cut out of her pouch on her right leg. There won't be any need for that, Sakura-san. My wounds heal fast because I have the fox inside of me, if you remember. Sakura had remembered and started to put the things she got out back into her pouch. They were just about to get hit again, but this time Kakashi had appeared and sent the chain in a different direction. Sorry I turned up late, I thought you would have been able to have avoided that kind of attack, Naruto. Naruto just glared at Kakashi and then focused back on the seasoned brothers of the hidden-most village. Naruto ran towards them and caught them by their throats and pinned them against the tree and then dropped them. Why are you here, demon brothers of the hidden-most village? Asked Naruto. Demon brothers Pav. We didn't realize you were here, N. Stop stuttering like an idiot and speak normally already, Naruto said. Sorry Naruto-sama, said one of the demon brothers. Everyone was surprised that two of the most wanted criminals had called him Naruto-sama. Okay, so why do you want Tazuna, old man over there? Asked Naruto as he pointed his finger at Tazuna. We paid to kill him by Gato, but we wouldn't have done if we knew you were here, Naruto-sama. Said the other demon brother. They left after having a talk with their No one's pav. Kakashi, Sasuke, Sakura and Mito were surprised that those demon brothers called Naruto-sama. Mito walked up to Naruto and asked, "How and why do they know you?" Quote, "They know me because I used to do missions behind everyone's back to keep the village safe from harm's way," Naruto replied. "You did what?" Sakura screamed. "I said I did missions behind everyone's back. No one knew at all," Naruto said again. "Those demon brothers pledged their loyalty to me when I was only 3 years old. At that point I hadn't controlled all of Kurama's chakra, so when I opened my eyes after losing myself to the chakra I hadn't controlled, they begged me for their life and seared to serve me ever since the age of 3. So I just agreed because I can read all the emotions in anyone's eye. Like right now I bet you are all shocked, even your face says it," Naruto said. "Wow, I had no idea. You didn't decide to tell until now. Naruto, you are so going to explain all the missions you did when you were younger." "Got it," said Mito. She was furious but she kept the anger in so Naruto didn't notice. "I understand, Nisama. I will explain everything to you when we are home. I will also tell mom and dad, so don't worry." "Okay," replied Naruto. He could tell his sister was angry and that she tried her best to keep it in so she didn't hurt Naruto. The others were mega surprised. They didn't bother to question Naruto as they knew he would tell them in due time. They had arrived at the river that leads them back to the land of waves. On the way Naruto had noticed a white bunny come out from one of the bushes. Naruto threw the shuriken over to the bushland waited. Kakashi was watching Naruto with his eye and to his amazement he saw why he was throwing shuriken. "Everyone get down now," Kakashi yelled. Everyone ducked and saw a sword swing above them and get stuck in the tree. Out from the bush came a hidden mist ninja. "Momochi Zabuza, Rouge from the hidden mist village," said Kakashi. "Oh, so I am in your bingo books as well, Kakashi of the Sharingan," said Zabuza. "Anyo, Kakashi-sensei, who is this person?" asked Sakura. "This person is Momochi Zabuza. He is from the hidden mist village. When he was child just like you he had killed all the other students in class for the graduation exam in the hidden mist." Kakashi replied to Sakura's question. He looked at Naruto and raised an eyebrow as to why he wasn't scared of Zabuza. Instead he was smiling. "I am so excited to finally start fighting against one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist." I could feel the stares I was getting from my team but I ignored them for now and focused on Zabuza. I stood my ground while Zabuza looked at each of us and stopped when he saw me. Under his mask made out of bandages it looked like he was smiling at me. Zabuza came running at me and I was ready. His sword came clashing against my kunai. He jumped back and summoned a sword and used that we were walking on the water and fighting. I yelled, "Kakashi, watch it or his water clone will bet you lot to killing Tazuna, old man. Oh, and don't interfere with my fight against Zabuza." "Okay." Quote. Kakashi and the rest besides Mito were shocked. Kakashi was shocked because he thought that Zabuza would ask him before he went on to his students, and he was also shocked again because Naruto had actually dared Zabuza to fight him first before the rest. The other two were just generally shocked about how little they knew Naruto. Mito was actually because she gets to see a Rouge ninja get bet up by her brother. Naruto's and Zabuza's battle on water. Me and Zabuza had just started fighting. Sword meeting kunai over and over again, people looking worried but glad that their comrade or friend can hold his ground in a fight to the death. Zabuza creates a water clone and the clone finds its way to the center of the group and stands there. Naruto stabs in the stomach before anyone could move. Kakashi then yelled, "Behind you, Naruto." Naruto turned around and Zabuza slices him only to be met with a kunai to his neck. The rest of his teammates were on the floor because of where Naruto came out of nowhere and just stabbed him in the stomach and then the kunai to his neck. "You're pretty good for a brat. I was sure your sensei would be good, but you're even better. But don't think that just because you have a kunai to my that you'll win so easily. I also didn't realize you could copy justice without needing the Sharingan," said Zabuza. "Zabuza, my eyes aren't as stupid as some people think, trust me on that, but if you are saying it is not the end then let's continue this fight before I get bored. Oh, and about my eyes, I am only able to do this because of the Kyuubi inside of me that I can control, unlike his previous Jinchurikis that he was locked, and I am also the first to control him," I replied back. After their little conversation they continued their battle. Zabuza had jumped onto the water when he pulled out our sensei from the water. Kakashi-sensei was trapped in a water prison just you, but that didn't stop me from attacking Zabuza. In fact, it made him happy because now he could slightly see where his plan was going. I had already started attack Zabuza with a number of fire-style justice, and soon he had to let go of Kakashi-sensei because I would have cut off his hand if he was a second late. Kakashi, get out of the water and tell the rest to. The water is for him to trap you guys so he can use you against me, and tell Mito at all cost not to come near me or Zabuza even if I am injured. I said to Kakashi. Kakashi had returned to the group and said, Naruto does not want us to interfere with his battle, and Mito, he said not to rush in to help him even if he is injured. Quote, but sensei, I can't just watch while my younger brother fights some stupid criminal and gets injured because of him, explained Mito. I know, Mito, but I can't do a thing about it, and I am pretty sure you all saw the look in Zabuza's eyes when he looked at Naruto, replied Kakashi. Back to the fight. Zabuza was starting to get tired because he had used too much Chikara fighting against this brat. Naruto didn't even look worn out or tired at all, in fact it looked like he wanted more. Naruto had a katana on his hand and slices Zabuza along his chest and legs. Zabuza was now panting and his blood was dripping. Out of nowhere Senbons came down and landed into Zabuza's neck, carousing him to go into a moment of death. Naruto already knew that he wasn't dead. I thank you for stalling Zabuza, the Rouge ninja I was running after, said the tracker Nin. Me and the team had nodded our heads. After the track Nin left, I made my way over to the team. The team was surprised that me, a boy no younger than their age, had beaten a Rouge ninja without our sensei's help. I had come back to my team and walked over to them. My team should have seen their faces, it was priceless. Of course they couldn't see I had a smile because I was quite far away from them. I had started walking and was at the shoreline when my head felt lightheaded. I yelled, Mito, come here quick. Mito came rushing over and I had collapsed in her arms. Mito's pav. I had rushed over to Naruto because he had yelled for me to come, and the next thing I know is he has collapsed in my arms. I knew that he was tired, even he the know-it-all had to rest like us. I walked back over to my team and they all had a worried look on their faces. I said, don't worry, he isn't injured. He is just tired, even he needs a rest and we know it. Let's continue to Tazuna-san's house and let Naruto rest. Kakashi-sensei, would you be able to carry Naruto on your back? Quote, of course, why wouldn't I carry Naruto, said Kakashi. I know, but you see, I asked other people in the village, and as soon as I went ahead by a step they took that chance to cut him or hit him or do something horrible to him. Mito answered. Oh, I see, replied Kakashi. Mito, what was Naruto's childhood like again? Asked Sakura. His life was awful. He would keep everything that hurt him to himself, he wouldn't let anyone in. Even me. It took my 3 to 4 years before I got his trust to let me help him. Naruto can be extremely distrustful when it comes to people. Our parents he still calls the lady and Lord Hokage. To him he doesn't see them as our parents, but I know he will come around to aid not it. Even if he doesn't show it, he is able to read every emotion in your eyes. Naruto is extremely sensitive to other people. A lot of people hate in the village, and you know why. If you still don't get what I mean, I shall explain. When we came back from a mission way before this one, and we had entered the Hokage's office to report back and get Naruto fixed. You know, when the Hokage asked Naruto a number of questions and then you all out your hand on Naruto's head and entered his mind, and then you saw a big animal behind bars with Naruto standing in front asking him questions. Well, that giant animal is the nine-tailed fox. The villagers can't see Naruto as himself but as the demon fox instead. People would call him a demon or monster. Soon even the children at school would ignore him because of their parents. Our parents would ignore Naruto to train to control Naruto. Invade, he went wild, so I didn't spend a lot of time with him either. That was Naruto's childhood. Mito explained and answered Sakura. Kakashi could feel Naruto move on his back. Mito, if Naruto wakes up on back, won't he freak out a little? Kakashi said. Right, so quickly hand him back to me so he won't suspect anything. Mito replied. We are almost at Tazuna's house, so they just continued to walk when Naruto woke and jumped out of my arms and threw shuriken in the bushes. Everyone was surprised to see Naruto awake, let alone throw shuriken into the bushes. Naruto, are you okay? I asked. I am fine, don't worry. I just got this feeling we were getting followed, but it must have been my imagination. Naruto replied and walked back over to me and rested his head on my shoulder. Nisan, how long was I out for and who carried me, because there is no way you can carry me for that amount of time, so spill. Naruto said. Okay, you were out for 2 to 3 hours. I asked Kakashi to hold you because I knew I wouldn't be able to do it. Okay Naruto. I answered. Okay, I guess I owe an apology and thank you to Kakashi then, Naruto said. Kakashi, I am sorry to have troubled you when you carried me, but thank you for it. After Naruto said that to Kakashi, he walked back over to me and almost collapsed again. Okay Naruto, I have had enough of this. Why are you collapsing again, and don't you dare try and lie to me because you know I will just keep pestering you for an answer. I asked a bit angry. Nissan. Okay, I almost collapsed again because Kurama hasn't finished healing me fully yet, so I am a little low on Shikara and I got a cut on my back front the fight earlier, but no one saw it because my cola they weren't ripped and Kurama had already heals that one, but it hurts a little after all. There are side effects from him healing my cuts. The effect is that I won't be able to fight for a day or two, so don't worry, Naruto replied. Also, why am I always getting questioned? He slightly yelled that. I am sorry for questioning you, but I do it because I am worried. You should have told about that side effect though, I said. We had all arrived at Tazuna's house and entered. We were met with a girl in the kitchen. It looked like she was cooking lunch for when we arrived. Oh, welcome back father, the girl said. I am back Tsunami. These people are ninja from the Hidden Leaf Village. They brought me back, said Tazuna. I see. Thank you for bringing my father back. May I ask for your names? Tsunami asked. Sure, I am Kakashi Hitaki, said Kakashi. I am Sakura Haruno, said Sakura fangirl. I am Sasuke Uchiha, said Sasuke Gaki. I am Mito Namikaze Uzumaki, said Nissan. I am Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki, I said lastly. Okay, I really do thank you for being my father home to me and my son, said Tanami. Come down and greet your grandpa and the ninja who helped him, Inari, yelled Tsunami up the stairs. Just as Tsunami had yelled up the stairs, there were footsteps coming down from the stairs, and soon a boy looking no older than 5 years old came out from behind a wall that I am guessing leads up to the stairs. Grandpa, you're home, yelled Inari. Yes I am, and it feels good to be home with you all, said Tazuna as he picked Inari off of the floor and hugged him. Inari, say thank you to these ninja who took Grandpa home to us, said Tsunami. Inari lost his smile and said, why, what's the point? They aren't going to beat Gato. Quote, Inari, yelled Tsunami. What? It is the truth, isn't it? There is no such thing as a hero, said Inari, who was now back on the floor after he had hugged his grandpa. Okay, I have had enough, yelled Naruto. Everyone looked at him but Mito. I don't know what you are so scared of about Gato, but there is no way we can lose. If you see that happening, I would like to see how it happens. What's more, Gato is smaller than me. If you think your life is hard, you should someone else's life before you complain about yours. I sus trying to keep my anger in, but at the end it failed. I walk out the door and slam it shut. Kakashi's pav. You Inari, it is true that Gato is smaller than Naruto, and I really can't see home being that strong. But if you went through Naruto's life, trust me, you wouldn't be complaining about the life you have right now. I haven't seen Naruto cry once ever since he joined this team. Though I bet Mito has seen him cry way more than us, but when he stops crying I guess he got tired and started to do something about behind everyone's back, I explained to him. I am going to try and calm Naruto down, said Sasuke. Mito just nodded her head and let him go. Mito, why didn't you go? I thought you would have done it, asked Sakura. I think it is time for Naruto to let other people in his life besides me and Iruka. I didn't go just now because I thought it was about time he let someone else try it. I will follow though to make sure things don't get out of hand. Though they won't notice I am following them. Mito smiled and went out the door to catch up with Naruto and Sasuke. Me and Sakura were discussing about the tracker ninja when it came to me that Zabuza wasn't dead but he was still alive. With Naruto and Sasuke. Mito with them, but they haven't noticed. Naruto's pav. Naruto, don't you think it is about time we head back? Sasuke asked. Say Sasuke-san, what would you do if you had my life and that boy Inari said that? Would you have exploded like I did or would you have kept quiet? I asked. Mito's thoughts. I am glad there is someone like Sasuke-san around to help my brother. I think you are starting to open up a bit to your team even if you don't show it, Naruto. Single quote. If it was me I think I would have slightly exploded like you. I also think you have a right to explode like that, Naruto, so I don't think you are in the wrong, answered Sasuke. Okay, let's head back, I said. I agree, Sasuke answered. We started to head back. Mito's thoughts. I guess I better get going to then. Single quote. Back at Tazuna's house. Still Naruto's pav. We had got back and I saw Sakura looking pale and Kakashi with a serious face. Anyo, what happened? Wait, hold on, let me guess. I think you guys have finally found out about Zabuza still being alive. Well, what do I say? It took you guys long damn enough, I said and yelled the last bit. You knew. Why didn't you tell us, you idiot? Said Sakura, her face gaining her color back. Yeah, I knew. I didn't telephone you though because I wanted to see how long it would take you to notice. Giving the time, I would say it took you about 7 to 8 hours to get it. Sensei, I didn't realize you were this slow, I said. Right. Well, tomorrow morning we are going to start training, so I suggest you all get a good night's sleep. And with that he went upstairs to one of the bedrooms in Tezuna's house. Next morning, Kakashi's POV, we were all up and had already eaten breakfast. All of my students are standing in front of me giving a, what do you plan to do, look. I just smiled and started to explain. Today team, we are going to do tree climbing. Quote, tree climbing, what is that going to do? Yelled Sakura. Tree climbing will teach you all on how to control Shikara, I explained. Sensei, I am finding this pointless, Naruto stated. Well, since you find it pointless, please do try to walk up any tree and mark the tree, or just sit on it and yell something. Okay, I said. Fine, Naruto said. He grabbed a kunai out of his pouch and started to walk up a tree and marked it and then yelled, Sensei, are you happy with this? I told you that it was pointless for me to do it. Quote, okay, since Naruto can do it, does that mean you can do it as well, Mito? I asked out of curiosity. She kept silent and took the kunai out of Naruto's hand. Naruto already can down. She had started to walk up it and marked it and just sat there. Okay, that just means that only Sakura and Sasuke have to master this, I said. Okay, both said and started to make their way up the tree. Sasuke was already halfway up the tree and Sakura was a quarter. Sakura had marked the tree again at the halfway point while Sasuke had marked it at 3/4. They both started again. Finally, after 5 to 6 hours, the pair had finally got up the whole tree. Right, that will be enough of tree climbing for today. Tomorrow I am going to send one of you to watch Zuna work. You will also be on guard to make sure he doesn't get hurt while trying to complete the bridge, I said and started to walk back to Tezuna's house for dinner. Naruto's POV, we are sitting around the table in silence eating dinner. Sasuke and I have finished dinner and are now chatting about our childhood. Mito and Sakura are still eating with everyone else. Inari, after dinner can I talk to you? I asked. Sure, I guess, answered Inari. After dinner, with Naruto and Inari by on the deck. Still Naruto's POV, Inari, are you sure you want to talk with me? You look a little nervous, I said. I do want to talk with you, I am just cold, that is all, answered Inari. Oh, I'll lend you my jacket till we get back inside. Now do you know why I asked you to come out here away from everyone else? I asked. Is it to yell at me for being a coward? He asked. I was shocked. Okay, far enough, I had yelled at him, but I didn't think he would say that. No, I didn't ask you out here to yell at you. I asked you out here because I want you to understand something. Now listen and listen well, because I will only say this once. To you, you may not have a perfect life and you think you can be somewhere better, but if you were in someone else's shoes and busted their home in their body, could you imagine what it would be like if it was worse than what you are living at this very instant? I said. If I was in someone else's shoes, and their life is worse than mine. Naruto Nissan, I don't think I can, he replied. Okay, then on this ride I will show you images of my life. But before I can do that, I need to ask your mom if I can do it so you can see someone else's life, I said and walked away with Inari following behind me. Tsunami-san, I want to show Inari some of my childhood memories, but I won't do it without permission from their parents, so is it okay with you? I asked. Yes, she replied. Kakashi, Sasuke and Sakura, come here for a minute. Nissan, I have already done this with you, so you know what happens, right? I asked, said. She nodded her head and walked over with the rest of the team following. Right, this jutsu I am about use lets me take Inari's mind out of his body, but it also takes mine, so when I show him images of my childhood, our bodies will be completely useless until I cancel the jutsu. When our minds do return, it takes 30 minutes or so to adjust, but for a child like Inari it could possibly take longer, but I will try and transfer all the possible damage to me, but then it takes a few more minutes for me to adjust, so I will be quite useless for a bit. I explained to them and they nodded. Ready, Inari? I asked and he nodded his head. Well, here we go. Image jutsu. Flashback. Naruto's POV. Inari, some of these images you might not like, but trust me, without your trust in me this won't work, I said. He nodded his head at me as if to say, I completely trust you, Naruto. We are at my childhood floating. Inari had clutched onto me and he asked, Naruto-Nisan, won't we fall? Listen Inari, we won't fall because we are only watchers rewatching images that are in my mind. I said. Now look, there will be a child around you age that looks like me. Inari just looked and soon enough we saw my younger self. Younger Naruto's Pav. I am walking home with a happy smile on my face because I have just aced another of my tests at school. Oh demon, someone yelled. I turned around and said, what demon? A bit confused. Don't you dare walk through here and ask what demon. By that demon I mean you blonde-haired brat, he said and started walking over to me. I was still confused as to why he was calling me a demon until he started kick me and then punching me. Last of all he cut me in the back. Soon enough other people started to join in too and me being me was so scared I was screaming. Finally it stopped. I looked up and saw everyone go home, so I got up and started running home. At home, I had finally arrived home and walked in to find the house empty. I was glad, though I was glad that my family didn't have to see me in this miserable state. I grabbed the first aid kit and ran to my bedroom and started putting bandages all over my body to heal my wounds. I ran out my bedroom and put the first aid kit back and headed back to bed without eating. Back with Naruto and Inari. Naruto's Pav. Do you see Inari, your life isn't as bad as the child's is, I said with a sad look. Yes Naruto-Nisan, I think I understand a bit better why you yelled this morning at me. Can we go back now? Inari asked. I nodded my head and cancelled the jutsu. Flashback ended. Present day. Naruto's Pav. I had woken up before Inari and I managed to sit on the couch, but my body hurt like hell. The whole team now were in the sitting room waiting for Inari to wake. Our minds had returned to our right bodies. Inari soon awoke and walked over to me with a problem. Inari, you don't hurt anywhere, do you? I asked slightly slowly because I had revived all the damage, but I don't know if he got hurt too. No, I am fine. But Naruto-Nisan, was that little blonde not I saw you, and why are you talking so slow? He asked. Yes, that was me you saw. And I am talking slowly because that jutsu has taken a lot out of me, not to mention I took all you damage as well. I said pretty slowly to slow for my liking. Inari just nodded his head and came to hug me. Ow, I said. He suddenly stopped hugging me and looked up at me. I just smiled at him. Naruto, what is wrong? You wouldn't just say, ow, for nothing, questioned Mito. Well, when looking at the images and you were there personally, you can sometimes get the damage that you got years ago, I said. Oh, wait, does that mean? Said Mito. Yeah, I said. Tsunami-san, do you have a first aid kit? Asked Mito. Yeah, do you want? Tsunami asked. Yes, and quickly please, Mito said. I was starting to feel lightheaded and my vision was starting to blur. I stood up but fell back on the couch. Naruto, don't you move that biddy of yours. If you do I will kill you after I have healed you, Mito yelled at me. Okay, I said, but I doubt she could hear it. Mito's Pav. I have the first aid kit and rushed over to Naruto. I had stripped him of his clothes and started to treat his wounds. Naruto, stay awake for me, I said. I will try, but I don't now, Nisan, Naruto replied. Just try to stay awake, I am almost done treating your wounds, and tell that damn thing in your mind to heal you quick, I said. Okay, he whispered. Everyone was now worried. Inari had started crying. Inari, you can calm down now, his wounds are starting to heal faster now that he asked a certain someone in his mind. But the one on his back, I'll leave a scar, I said. Great, another one, and it had to be a word, didn't it? Naruto said, trying to stand up but getting tackled back down to the couch by Inari. Whoa there, Inari. What is wrong? He asked as if nothing happened. I thought I lost you, he said, whitest crying. Don't worry. I can't die that easily and leave something dangerous in your village, as it will cause anyone a lot of pain and suffering, and I don't want to see that happen to them, Naruto said. Inari just hugged him tighter and didn't let him go until he fell asleep in his chest. Naruto's Pav. After Inari fell asleep on me, I carried him up to bed and put the covers over him. Tazuna and Tsunami are in bed as well, sleeping, and headed back downstairs to discuss with my team about Zabuza and the tracker ninja. So do you guys think that tracker nin is working with Zabuza? Asked Sakura. Let's get this straight. That tracker nin is working with Zabuza. If not she wouldn't have saved him, I stated matter of fact with an expression on my face. Kakashi just nodded his head. I looked over to Kakashi because he hadn't said much, so I asked, Kakashi, are you okay? You haven't said much than you normally do. In fact, I am starting to find it a bit weird. Quote, Kakashi just looked over at me and smiled. He then asked, Naruto, how much information do you have on Gato? Quote, I gave him a questioning look as if to say, do you really need to ask? I have quite a bit of information in Gato and that bridge. Why? I replied. Because if you have got a lot of information on him, we can always be a step ahead and we can try and convince Zabuza and that tracker Nin to not fight us. Kakashi replied. Oh, then I will start with the tracker Nin, I said emotionlessly. They just looked at me as if to say, I doubt you can convince him. Mito caught that look and said, don't worry, Naruto is actually quite good at negotiations with other people, whether they be enemies or not, or there are times he will just take matters into his own hands and deal with it. Mito Nisan said. Wait, Naruto, do you know where the tracker Nin will be? Sasuke asked. I have a pretty good idea where she will go. I said. Okay, we will discuss about Gato tomorrow and deal with Zabuza and the tracker Nin now. We leave it to you, Naruto, Kakashi said. Okay, well, I'm off to go and negotiate with that tracker Nin, I said, and was out of the house in 10 seconds. Out in the forest for negotiations. Next morning, Haku's Pav. I have gone out to gather herbs for Zabuza when I come across a boy who is asleep. It looks like he has done too much training. I walk over to him, but I hesitate to wake him up because I don't want to be caught. I gently wake him up and say, young boy, if you don't get up you are going to catch a cold, I said gently. He gently opened his eyes and looked at me, asked, who are you? Me, I am Haku. What about young boy? I replied, asked. Me, I am Naruto. Are you the tracker Nin that is helping Zabuza at the moment? He asked. I was shocked. I quickly pulled out a kunai and stood ready for a fight, but to my amazement Naruto didn't attack me. He didn't bring out his weapons, but I was still on guard. Whoa, listen, I am not going to attack you, but I would like to try and negotiate with, because Gato will end up killing you and Zabuza, Naruto said. I slowly lowered my defenses, but Naruto still didn't attack. Okay, I will go along with you. By what is your plan? I asked. Oh, that. Well, since he wants the bridge builder's daughter, I will have to stay behind a bit to protect them. While I am doing that, try and not attack my team, and soon I will appear. Then we just need to wait for Gato to appear and attack him, Naruto explained. Okay, I will go and explain this to Master Zabuza and we will see you on the bridge, Naruto, I said, and with that I went back to my master and explained everything to him. Back at Tazuna's home, Naruto's Pav. I have returned to Tazuna's house to see everyone awake and eating breakfast. After a few minutes I get tackled to the ground by Inari. Ow, I said as Inari gets off of me. He says, sorry Naruto ni. It's okay Inari, don't worry, I replied. Kakashi, Sasuke and Sakura all looked at me and then carried on eating. Mito Nisan looked at me and smiled. I smiled back and she got the message. Kakashi-sensei, can we have a discussing about what to do next later? I asked. Sure, but tell how it went. Okay, Kakashi replied. Sure, I said. Inari, have you eaten breakfast yet? I asked. No, I was waiting for you, Inari replied happily. Okay, then let's eat, I said, and Inari just nodded. We went to the table and started eating. After breakfast, still Naruto's Pav. After we had finished breakfast, the whole team went to the living room. I was the first to speak to break the silence that was around the room. I met that tracker Nin. His name is Haku. He is a male. I went over the plan with him and he went back to tell his master Zabuza, I said. Okay, now all we need is to find out what Gato is planning, said Kakashi. Oh, I already know that, I said. What is it we need to know if we want to protect them, said Sakura. His plan is to send 2 of his most trusted people over here to capture Tsunami-san and take over to the bridge, but what they don't know is that before they reach here I will have already taken them somewhere safe and left a shadow clone over there. Once I know that Tsunami and Inari are safe, I will head over there to you guys, but do not, and I mean by all means, do not attack them. Instead draw it out for as long as you can and wait for me to arrive. Then we are just waiting on Gato, which shouldn't take long because he has very low patience on waiting for people to do the job. When he comes out of hiding we all attack him and his men, I explained to them. They looked shocked, but they all knew that they can trust me, but I still keep my true self hidden from them because I still can't trust them just yet. Okay, when is this happening? Asked Kakashi. In 2 days, I said simply. Okay, said everyone else. 2 days later, Naruto's Pav. It was morning and everyone was up eating breakfast. It was silent while we ate. Kakashi-sensei, I think it is time to put our plan into action, don't you? I said with a smirk on my face. Kakashi just nodded, and with that Tazuna, Sasuke, Sakura and Kakashi were out of the house and heading towards the bridge to finish it so they could get to the mainland. Okay, Tsunami and Inari, are you ready to leave? I asked. They nodded theirs and started to get ready to leave. I created one shadow clone that looked like me, and with that we left the house. At the bridge, Sasuke's pav. We are at the bridge waiting for Tazuna to finish the bridge, but it looks like it won't be completed just yet. Boom! I looked around the bridge to see it covered in smoke. I quickly ran to find Kakashi-sensei and Sakura, only to be met with mist covering the whole bridge. I yelled, "Kakashi-sensei, Sakura, Tazuna-san, Mito, where are you?" as I was searching for them in the mist. I just came out of the most, but the image I was seeing was still a bit vague. I could make out 5 people, I think, standing there chatting. Then I remember Naruto's plan and what they are doing. I walked up to them and stood by Sakura. She looked a bit surprised to see me standing next to her as if nothing is happening. I then asked, "What is going on?" Sakura had then started to explain, "Well, you know Naruto's plan." I nod. "We are starting the second part of it, you know, to draw him a small amount of time to arrive, and then we are waiting for Gato to arrive with his men." I nod and then just look over at Zabuza's company, aka the tracker Nin that helped him survive that first time they met. With Naruto's pav. I have just put Tsunami and Inari in a safe place and made sure that they stayed there so they don't get hurt with the upcoming battle. I am almost near the bridge, where Zabuza and Kakashi and supposed to be talking with everyone else. I have just arrived at the bridge and noticed everyone's Shikara is there, and then I noticed that Gato and his men were just under the bridge waiting for the right time to attack Zabuza and Haku. I have made my way through the thickest part of the mist and I am now standing in the middle of the bridge when they all turned towards me as if to say, "Okay, now that you're here, what do you want us to do?" I sighed and walked towards Zabuza and Haku. "Well, nice to see you convinced your master to join us, Haku," I said unenergetic and looked towards Zabuza. "Yes, it would seem so," Haku said. Everyone was now confused as to why they were talking in such good terms, as if they weren't enemy or friend but just to start a conversation on nothing. Now that was strange. "Anyo, what are you doing, Naruto-san?" asked Sakura. Me? Well, let's see, can you remember what the third part of the plan was? I asked and looked at them, turning my gaze away from the end of the bridge. The third part was, I am sorry, I don't remember that part. "Oh wait, wasn't it to wait for Gato to turn up?" answered Sakura. "Well, looks like you found the answer if you think long enough," I said, a bit sarcastic. I mean, I wasn't trying to be mean, but she really can be stupid sometimes, and they used to call me stupid. Sakura just frowned at me on the last comment. "Where was he when you last sensed him?" asked Sasuke. "He was at the end of the bridge waiting for the right time to attack," I said with a look saying, does he really need to know? Time skip. 1 hour later. Naruto's pav. After an hour of waiting for Gato to show himself, we just started chatting about nothing important, just small talk. Gato finally appears from underneath the bridge and then yelled, "Attack!" We all took a fighting stance and in 15 to 20 minutes it all ended. Gato looked like a scared kid about to get killed. Well, truth be told, he was about to die. I walked up to him. "Naruto, what are you going to do to him?" asked Haku. I turned around and their faces looked a bit worried and scared. I sighed and said, "I am only going to make him suffer a little." Why? As if it was the most usual thing to ask. "Okay," they all said after Mito just nodded her head. I then walked back over to Gato but stopped because I could sense more of his men arrive. I turned around and yelled, "Don't come near here for any reason and stay where you are." They were all confused but just stayed where they were. Gato had a face saying, "Okay, now I am safe because this child has left his team to deal with 200 men and then me." Okay, now I was pissed and let out my killing intent. The men had finally arrived and I started killing them one by one. I had just killed the last one and I was covered in blood. I had no cuts or wounds at all. I finally for the third time walked up to Gato and grabbed my kunai, then cut from his shoulder to his hip. I stepped back and summoned Kurama to my side. Kurama didn't look surprised because he could see what I was doing considering he lives inside of me. I looked at Kurama and he looked at me. I nodded my head to him and smiled. I walked back to my team with Kurama by my side. I was back with my team and released the jutsu I did and Kurama went back inside of me. Mito rushed to me and asked, "Are you okay? Are you hurt? Will you collapse of exhaustion?" Mito Nisan, calm down. I am fine. No, I am not hurt, this blood is theirs. I won't collapse of exhaustion. I answered all of her questions. Mito finally sighed a breath of relief and let it go. Hate to rain on your parade, but what are we supposed to do now that Gato is gone? Asked Haku. Oh, that why not come and join us in Luz and Kanaha, I said. Everyone just looked at me as if they saw a ghost or something. What's the matter? I asked, confused as to why they were so silent and shocked. Anyo, Naruto, you do realize that the Hokage is there, right? Said Sakura. Everyone nodded their heads to say that there is no way this is going to happen. Okay, since you lot are so scared of Mito Nisan's father, I will talk to him. They're happy now, I said. We started to walk back when I stopped. Does anyone know where Inari and Tsunami are? I asked. They stood there and then Tazuna started to panic. Naruto, where is my daughter and grandson? He said, still bit in panic mode. Don't worry, Tazuna-san, they're safe and sound, they should still be there. Don't throw up when we arrive, okay? I said, and with that we were transported. We had arrived at a cave by Tsunami's house that they didn't know of until I hid them there. I walked in and yelled, Tsunami's, Inari, you two can come out now. I heard running coming towards us, and soon enough Inari popped his head out of the hole and came out and hugged me. Inari, where is Tsunami? I asked. Oh mother, she will be here in Abbott, she is walking, said Inari, still hugging me. A few minutes later Tsunami came out of the cave and thanked us for protecting her and her family. It is okay. That is why we are here and that is our job, said Kakashi. A few days later, Naruto's Pav, Tazuna and a few of the villagers had finished building the bridge. Well, what should we name it? Asked Inari. How about the Great Naruto Bridge, said Tazuna. They all nodded their heads and agreed on it. Oh, and Zabuza and Haku, come with us. I can't say for sure if you get accepted, if not you can always come back here and keep the village safe. I said. The team just face-palmed. After they had named it we started heading home. Time skip. Few weeks after they got home. Naruto's Pav. We had all arrived home a few weeks ago and just did our usual things. Sasuke was running away from fangirls, me and Mito were deciding on dinner, and Sakura was just a fangirl. Flashback. We had got back to our village and checked in with the guards at the front gates. We walked over to the Hokage tower and knocked on the door and waited. After a few seconds of waiting there was a small enter. We all headed in except Zabuza and Haku. Ah, I see you are all home. How was the mission? Asked the Hokage Minato. Hokage-sama, the mission you sent us on wasn't AC rank but an A- rank. They only put it down as AC rank because they didn't have enough money to put it as an A- rank, I said. Okay, Kakashi, who are the two outside the door? It seems like they don't want to come and it isn't any of your students because they are here in front of me, asked Minato. You know what, Sasuke can explain that, said Kakashi. Well I think it's Sakura's turn, said Sasuke. What, well we sort of ran into him on the way. You know what, it's Naruto's turn, said Sakura. Me and Mito both sighed. Okay Hokage-sama, the people outside the door are two Rouge ninjas that I decided could come and live here. I said. Okay, so who are the two Rouge ninjas? Asked Minato. Okay, you two can enter now, I said. The door opened and in came Zabuza and Haku. Hokage dono, my name Haku, said Haku. My name is Zabuza Momochi. We are both hidden mist Rouge ninjas, said Zabuza. What? Naruto, you are telling me that you convinced two of the most wanted ninjas to come and live here in the Hidden Leaf Village, yelled Minato. Yes, I did. Is something wrong, Lord Namaxi Uzumaki? I said with no emotion in my voice. It was like I was born without emotions. They all looked a bit shocked that I said it with no emotion, but I just shrugged it off and stood waiting. Okay, Team 7 can leave, but I want Mito to stay behind. Naruto, would it be okay if you did the shopping for dinner? And Zabuza and Haku, I will need you fill in some forms so you can live, but please understand that there will be Anbu following you because you do have an extremely high price on you if you are captured, said Minato. Then I will be on my way. If you ever need me you can find me at a lake where no one goes and the only person there is me, but rest assured that we'll have already done your shopping and then made your dinner, but after that I will leave. I said and disappeared just like that. Minato's Pav. Then I will be on my way. If you ever need me you can find me at a lake where no one goes and the only person there is me, but rest assured that we'll have already done your shopping and then made your dinner, but after that I will leave. Naruto said and disappeared just like that right in front of us. I sighed and I just looked at the spot where my son had just stood. Anyway, you are dismissed. Zabuza and Haku, here are the firms you need to fill out. Mito, you will be training. Bear and Wolf, please keep guard of those two but stay hidden. I said. A few minutes had passed when Zabuza and Haku had handed me their forms that you gave them to fill in. Okay, here is a key and some money that should last for a month or two. You two will be required to go on missions to earn money. I said. They both nodded their heads at me. End of flashback. With Naruto. Naruto's POV. I had finished shopping and had got ingredients for ramen for Lady Kushina and then other ingredients for curry and rice. I started heading to the Namikaze Uzumaki house. I had entered the house. I closed the door and went to the sitting room to see Lady Kushina on the sofa asleep. I went to the kitchen and put the shopping down. I then went to my bedroom and grabbed the blanket. I took it over to Lady Kushina and laid it on top of her. She was shivering, so she must have been here for an hour or so. She stopped shivering when I put the blanket on top of her. I went to the kitchen and started making miso ramen for Lady Kushina. I hand finished it and put it in a bowl and then went back and started making Lord Minato's, Mito Nissan's and my dinner. We had curry with rice. I had finished my dinner and then went to wake Lady Kushina up. Lady Kushina, wake up, there is ramen on the table for you, I said. After I said ramen, she opened her eyes and sat up. Oh, you are home, Naruto, welcome back. Has dinner been made? Kushina said. Yes, milady, dinner has been made, now go into the kitchen and eat before it gets cold, I said with a small smile. Okay, what is for dinner, Naruto? Kushina asked. Oh, you will see if you come into the kitchen and eat, I said. Okay, said Kushina. She walked to the kitchen and looked at the table. She screamed. I ran over to her and asked, what's wrong? Did someone try to enter and take you? I said, a bit worried. Kushina came over and hugged me. Lady Kushina, what are you doing hugging me? I asked, a bit surprised that she would do this sort of thing. Naruto, you really are here, and what do you mean by why am I hugging you? Kushina said after she let go and went over to eat her miso ramen. Well, I thought since I have the 9 tails in me you would have ignored me like everyone else. I said, why would I do that when I was the one who gave birth to you? I know you have the 9 tails in you because me and your dad used it as a last resort, but you are still my child, so why wouldn't I? Thanks for making me my favorite ramen though. Oh, and stop calling me and your dad Lady and Lord Namikaze Uzumaki. It is mum and dad, said Kushina. Okay, I'll try to stop it, but thank you for this talk. Dad and Mito Nissan should be here soon, I said. Naruto's POV. Mito Nisama and dad had just walked into the house and suddenly Mito Nisama said, it smells good, what did you make, Naruto? Quote, oh, you're back. Hold on, I will go and heat your dinner up. It went cold because of how long you two were out. I said, a bit happy that we were like a family without worries. Naruto, where is Kushina? Asked dad. Oh mum, wait, let me correct that, Lady Kushina is in the shower. She has already eaten and so have I answered. My dad sighed. What's wrong, dad? Wait, Lord Minato, I asked. Naruto, why are you correcting yourself when you know what to call us? Dad said. I was confused. What was he on about? Was he on about me correcting myself when I called him dad and mum? Dad, I mean Lord Minato, I don't think I quite understand what you are getting at, I said with a confused expression on my face. What I mean is, why do you call me dad and then go and say, wait, I mean Lord Minato, dad said, asked. Oh, I say dad, because mum, I mean Lady Kushina scolded me for saying Lord Minato and Lady Kushina. She told me to call you mum and dad, but I corrected myself because I thought since I hold the 9-tailed beast inside of me you wouldn't allow me to call you because I would have been being too friendly with you and you could have suspected me for acting like I am your son. So basically I corrected myself because I thought you wouldn't accept me because of what I hold, and like everyone else in this village I thought you would have hit me or at least hurt me by now, I said while looking at the floor. I looked up to see Mito Nisama by dad looking like she was going to cry, and then I slowly raised my head to look at dad and I could see in his eyes that he held anger, but in his eyes he also held happiness in them. If you don't mind me asking, Lord Hokage, I get the feeling you are going to hit me, and don't say you won't because I can see in your eyes that you hold anger and yet you hold some small happiness, I asked. Well, let me put this straight, Naruto. I am angry because you thought I wouldn't accept you because of what you hold, but I know what you hold because I am the one who did that to you. And I am also angry because those villagers that I thought were kind and wouldn't hurt a child did it behind my back and I didn't even realize it until Mito told us. I am happy because your mum scolded you to call me and her mum and dad and I completely agree with her. If you don't, I will put you into training to the point where you will be exhausted for at least a day or two. I know you are going to correct yourself from time to time because you are still getting used to it, but after 3 to 4 months you should be used to it, and if I hear it I will make you train to the point you won't be able to walk for a day or two, Dad said. I looked at him because my face was looking at the ground in case he didn't. Except me. I looked up at him and smiled. Then for the first time in ages I felt a hand ruffle my hair and then a hug. It held warmth and love in it. Something I have been wanting to feel for years, and now it is finally coming true. My dreams were becoming really one by one. I had started crying because of what my dad was doing. Minato's pav. I was hugging my little boy. It had been ages since I last held him. I was also ruffling his hair. I stooped because I felt hot drops of water land on my shirt. Naruto, what's wrong? Why are you crying? I asked and was about to let go of the hug so I can see his face when he hugged me back and wouldn't let go. I finally got out of his hug and tilted his head so he was looking at me, and what I saw was Naruto's tear-stained face. Naruto, what are you crying? I asked. I haven't felt this warmth in ages. I forgot how warm it was to get hugged by your parents. I only ever felt pain and suffering. Naruto said, hugging me again, still crying. Oh Naruto, you silly boy, I said and continued to hug him. Kushina's pav. I had just finished my shower and got dressed, then head downstairs when I heard Naruto and Minato talking. I stood outside the doorway hidden in the shadows so I could listen to them talk. Minato had asked Naruto why he was correcting himself. Naruto had said he was doing it because he was scared of being rejected by him because of what he holds. After their long explanation, Minato soon asked Naruto what's wrong. Why is he crying? Naruto said he hadn't felt parent love for ages and only delay sadness or suffering. Minato just called him a silly boy. I decided it would be a good time for me to go in. What's going on? I skied as if I haven't heard anything at all. They all turned to see me standing at the doorway looking worried. Oh, Kushina, me and Naruto were having a chat when I hugged him. He was crying, Minato explained. I just need him. Naruto let go of Minato and Naruto headed to the kitchen. We were wondering what he was doing when he called Minato and Mito to come and have dinner. I just smiled and sat on the couch and waited for them to finish. Naruto's pav. It had been ages since my dad had hugged me. I loved the warmth that parents make you feel. My dreams were to get my parents' love and become Hokage, but I don't really care about the Hokage anymore now that we are a family. My dad had let me go because my mum came in. Once he let me go, I went to the kitchen to heat up their dinner that they hadn't eaten. I yelled, Dad, Mito Nisama, come, and gave dinner. They both came running in and sat at the table ready to eat. Naruto, what did you make? It smells really good, asked my dad. Curry and rice, Dad. If you guys want anything for dinner tomorrow, tell me and I could make it if we have the ingredients, I said. I handed them their plates and they were eating like there was no tomorrow. Whoa, slow down, it's not like the food is going anywhere, I said, a bit surprised. They were eating it really fast, but I was also worried that they might choke on it. Yeah, but still, I haven't had something this good in ages, Dad said. Oh, and what do you mean by that? I said, a bit annoyed. What do you mean? The last few meals there was no taste to it, so it was pretty average, but this one there is so much flavor, it tastes amazing, my dad explained. Well, I am sorry, the other dishes I cooked were average and had no taste, I said, a bit pissed off by what he said, but hey, who wouldn't be? You mean over the past few months you were making dinner? Wow, I had no idea, said my dad, shocked to hear that these past 4 or 5 know that I have been making dinner. Yeah, you all looked so tired, so I decided to make dinner without you knowing, but now you know, so yeah, I said, happy that they look energetic again. We all went into the sitting room and sat on the sofas that are there and started talking about who knows what. A few hours later, we had finished our talk. This time the topic was about favorite animal and reason why. Mito Nisama and Mom were arguing about a cat and a dog and their reason you should choose that animal. We finished that and went to bed to get some sleep that night because it was already late. The time was 23:45 and the normal time a shinobi should sleep is at 2200 or around that time. I had just woke up and started making breakfast when a loud thud came from Mito Nisama's bedroom. I turned off the heat and ran to her bedroom. I knocked on the door. Once, twice, thrice. I flung the door open to find my all-important Nisama on the floor rubbing her head in pain. I walked up to her and asked, "Nisama, what's wrong and how did you fall out of your bed?" Quote, "Oh Naruto, I didn't realize you was there. There is nothing wrong. I fell out of my bed by turning my body to the other side. What I didn't know I was already on the edge of my bed," Nisama replied. "As you say Nisama, but hurry up or you'll miss breakfast and we have to meet up with our team today," I said in the most causal voice. "Okay, I'll be down there on 5 minutes, yelled Mito Nisama. I just chuckled. I found it funny how she, Mito Nisama, could fall out of her own bed. I went downstairs to find my mum and dad already awake and sitting at the table eating breakfast. Wait, breakfast? I hadn't even finished yet. Mum, dad, which one of you finished breakfast?" I asked, confused as to how the food got from almost done to be served on a plate to eat. "Oh morning son, I finished breakfast while you went to wake up and help your sister," answered my dad. "Oh, okay, thanks for that," I said with a smile on my face. "Oh my god, Naruto's, you are so cute when you smile. I hope I get to see you smile more," said my mum, hugging me to the point I can barely breathe. "Mum, I can't breathe," I said between breaths. "Oh sorry Naruto's, but you were so cute I forgot to control my strength," my mum said while scratching the back of her neck a bit embarrassed. "It's fine. Me and Mito Nisama should leave in a few minutes," I said as I sat down and started eating breakfast. Mito Nisama had just come downstairs wearing her usual ninja wear. We were both eating breakfast when a question appeared in my head. "Hey dad, you know when the Kyuubi attacked our village, did you look at his eyes by any chance?" I asked, a bit unsure if he would get angry at me. I looked down at the floor so I didn't have to look at his face. "Naruto, I didn't look at his eyes because I was too busy wanting to protect you, your sister and your mom." "But why did you want to know if I looked at his eyes?" answered dad. "Well, I was talking with him one night because I couldn't sleep, so our topic was when he first attacked our village. Kurama, he had said, when I was pulled out of your mother, he, the masked man, was controlling with the Uchiha's Sharingan. So I wanted to know if you saw his eyes. Even though I believe him, I want to know for sure that what he was saying was the truth," I said. "I see, I am sorry I can't answer. Shouldn't you two be on your way to meet with your team?" said dad. "Yeah, I completely forgot. See you later mum, dad," I yelled while dragging Mito with me. With the team, Naruto's POV, me and Mito had just arrived at Trying Ground 7. We walked up to see Sasuke and Sakura already there, but our sensei still isn't. About 30 minutes had passed when our sensei had finally arrived. "Haha, so sorry I am late. I was with the Hokage talking about this year's Chunin's exams," said Kakashi sensei. "Oh yeah, I heard about them, but you are going to tell the other two the rules, aren't you sensei?" I said. Mito nodded her head as if to agree with me. "Wait Mito, Naruto, you two already knew about the exams?" Kakashi said, a bit shocked. "Yeah, pretty much. Did you forget he is our father?" I said. Yeah, I sort of forgot about that part of information," said Kakashi. "Okay then, since me and Mito already know about the exams, I think I am going to explain about them to Sasuke and Sakura." "Sasuke, Sakura, come here for a minute," I yelled. Sasuke and Sakura came running over to me and Mito. "Right, you two know about the Chunin exams, right, and that they are being held in this village?" I said. They both nodded their heads. "Well, when our baka of a sensei gives us our forms, remember that we have to take this as a whole team. If one is out, that means all of the others are out. So if one of you wants to back out, no, you better you do it or forever hold your peace," I said. I looked at the two's faces and saw that Sasuke wasn't going to give this chance up. I then looked at Sakura and she looked like she was having a talk with herself in her mind. Sakura, if you don't want to take the exams, there is always a second chance this year, but in a different village. You know," I said. Sakura shook her head, asked if to say she will do it. "I'll take the exam," said Sakura with confidence in her voice. "Okay, now that that is settled, let's get those forms from Kakashi. You will also need your parents to sign them, if not then get the Hokage to sign it for you," I said, and with that we went back to Kakashi and got our forms. After that we were dismissed and free to do what we want. We all head in the same direction for some random reason. "Mito Nisama, don't we need to go shopping for dinner tonight?" I asked while still walking. "We do, but I get the feeling Dad is going to train me again," said Mito Nisama with a bit of excitement in her voice. "Okay, then I am going to go on ahead and shop for lunch, then use whatever for dinner. Laters," I said and ran off. Mito's POV. Naruto had just run off to do the shopping. Sasuke and Sakura are still with me. So you two, what are you doing going the same way as us? Your homes are the other way if I am correct. I said, confused as to why they were following us. I need to see the Hokage, said Sasuke, but I could tell that wasn't the reason. I felt like coming this way. Is there a problem? Said Sakura. No, I was just wondering. Chill. Well then, since you two are doing your own thing, I am going to get Naruto before something happens to him by the villagers, I said, and jumped up to the nearest rooftop and started looking for Naruto. Found him? Questioned Sasuke and Sakura. Yeah, I said as if I was talking to myself, and went to Naruto's location. I had found Naruto as he came out of a shop with groceries for lunch and started heading home. He was a few doors away when a village came out and said, "Oi demon fox. Why don't you leave our village already so we can have peace around here?" Quote, "Huh, what are you on about?" replied Naruto. Me, Sasuke and Sakura could see this but didn't do anything. What am I on about? I am on about you. Why is it the Hokage hasn't done anything about you and that evil demon of a fox that is in you? Why are you allowed to live here? In this village with us when you're a threat to our village, said the villager. Oh, I don't know, why don't you ask him yourself? Replied Naruto. You bloody brat, I am going to beat you so you have learnt your stupid lesson, yelled the villager. After he yelled that, he dragged Naruto away. Naruto wasn't struggling because he knew what would happen. We followed Naruto to see that a group of people had already began beating him to death. An hour had passed and they all went away to go home. We looked back at Naruto and saw that he could barely stand but still did it and headed back to the house with all the shopping. Naruto had just come out of the alleyway and fell to the ground. He got up again but fell. Naruto had given up trying to get back up and walk halfway out of the alleyway. All three of us had seen what he goes through. I got off of the rooftop I was on and carried him home. I still had Sasuke and Sakura following me for unknown reasons, but I couldn't care at this point in time. I just wanted Naruto to get home and heal soon. I had got home and flung the front door open, and when I did that, Mum and Dad ran over to the door to find that I had Naruto in my arms, passed and covered in blood and bruises. Mum had broke down crying in her hands. Dad took Naruto from my arms and put him in bed to rest and heal. I went over to Mum and tried to comfort her. Dad came back and I looked up at him and asked, "Dad, is Naruto asleep?" A bit shaken from what I saw. He is asleep. Also, what is Sasuke and Sakura doing with you? Asked my dad. Oh, I completely forgot about that. I was following Naruto and they were following me for some random reason, but when I looked back at the shop, Naruto was gone and I was searched frantically for him. We found him and he was in the middle of getting beaten, but because I was too scared of what I saw, I stood there and then picked him up after I got my body to work and took him here. I said, a bit panicky of what might happen. Okay, was the short reply of my dad. We should let them in. They are after all your teammates, right? Said Mum. Yeah, I'll go and tell them, I said, and rushed out the sitting room to the front door. You guys can come in. I didn't mean to leave you out here for this long, I said, and let them in. Are you sure? Asked Sakura. Yeah, don't worry, I said happily. Oi Mito, I think we need a small explanation of that is allowed by your parents, said Sasuke. Yeah, come in and I'll ask them, I said. They both finally came in and I lead them to the sitting room. Mum, Dad, I think it is about time we tell them about Naruto and what he actually holds, I said. Yeah, I agree. We better call Kakashi as well, said Dad. Minato. Okay, I'll go and call him, said Mum. Kushina. Why don't you guys settle down while I go and check up on Naruto, and Mito will bring you some tea, said Dad. I started to head to the kitchen and make tea. Mum was on the phone to Kakashi and Dad went to check on Naruto. Okay, tea's ready, I said to myself. I walked back into the sitting room and set the tray with tea on it down in the table and handed a cup of tea to everyone. Kakashi turned in 5 minutes, record time, I thought sarcastically. Dad came downstairs with Naruto in his arms, bridal style. Wake up, Naruto, said Dad. I am. Up, said Naruto, still sounding like he is asleep and with a painful tone to it. Well, you need to be awake because your team is in our sitting room as well as your teacher, I said with a matter-of-fact tone. Naruto jumped out of Dad's arms but then landed on his knees and his head almost hit the floor, but because of my dad's reflexes he was carrying Naruto to the sofa for a talk other our teammates and sensei. Naruto's POV. When Dad said that, I thought, oh great, how many more times do I have to explain my past to them? Oh well, here it goes. I started by saying, let's go and take a visit to Kurama. They just nodded their heads and put their hands on my head. Batter that was done, I closed my eyes and here we were again in my mind. In Naruto's mind. Naruto's pav. Hello there old pal, I said. Took you long enough, what you here for anyway, and by the looks of it something that you don't want to relive again, Kurama answered. You got that right pal, I said. Okay, so can you let me out of here, I am starting to get bored, Kurama said in a matter-of-factory tone. Yeah, I agree, I am getting bored of these cages too, I said. After I said that, I undid the seal that I control and let him out. Yes, freedom finally, he yelled. I started laughing like hell. I was clutching my stomach because of how much I was laughing. Okay, are you ha 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 ready to ha 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 use that just you that we ha 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 perfected ages ago? I said, trying to stop my laughter that I was about to come out of the back of my throat. Okay, stop laughing, I get that what I did is funny, but you don't need to laugh that much. I can still use that just you, but I think you need to explain to them why you did what you did, Kurama said. Okay, I will, I said. I turned around to see their faces with confusement. Oh, how I loved that look, don't ask me why though. I just do. I turned back around to face Kurama and said, ready, we will use that just you got it. Kurama just nodded his head. I took a deep shaky breath and said, past just you, and we started heading to when the beatings first took place. Sorry, I can't be bothered to repeat his past from the beginning. Hope you forgive me. Back in Naruto's mind. Naruto's pav. Well, that is something I sure as hell don't want to relive again, I thought. We are back in my mind with Kurama still out of his cage. Now do you get why I wear a mask and stay away from all of the villagers? It is because of this that I keep a secret from everyone, I asked. My team and my parents shook their heads. I sighed. Oh, what am I going to do with them, huh? I thought. I kept my past a secret and wearing a mask a secret because I didn't want you guys to feel pity for me and because you guys pretty much don't get attacked by the villagers when you walk home. I said. Their mouths all formed an O shape. I shook my head. Well, Kurama, I am going to have to put you back in your cage. Sorry to do this to my friend, but we will be taking our leave, I said. I touched all their foreheads and when I pulled my hand back they went back to their right bodies. I put the cage up and went back to my body. I opened my eyes to see them all with worried faces. What's wrong? I asked. What's wrong? When we got back you still hasn't moved and then you ask what's wrong, Mito, Kushina and Sakura. God, I thought my eardrums had burst with all three of them yelling at me. Sorry, but I did tell you that I had to put Kurama back in his cage beforehand. You guys must have been too shocked to have heard what I said. Not to mention our time runs differently from your time. Too, is it feel like only seconds have passed while with you it looks like hours or days, weeks passed when we talk for a few minutes. I explained to them. All their mouths formed in zero shape. God, I loved them but I didn't realize they could be so stupid at times. Next morning. Naruto's pav. I woke up at 6 a.m. which I thought was way earlier than I usually woke up, but nevertheless I headed downstairs to find that my whole team was sleeping on the sofas in our sitting room. I then remembered that stayed our last night because it was so late. Sakura called her parents considering that she is the only one who has parents other than me and Mito in our team. I quietly went back upstairs and sat on my bed reading a book. I looked back at the clock and it read 7:30 a.m. so I headed back downstairs and started on breakfast. By the time I was down I hadn't noticed that everyone in the house was around the table. I guess I was too engrossed in my cooking that I didn't sense them. I turned around and yelled, "Holy cheesecake, when did you guys get here?" We have been here ever since you started cooking, Naruto," replied Mito. Is that so? I guess I was too caught in my thoughts that I didn't sense you guys coming, I said while I set down breakfast. Well, breakfast is severed, I said and went upstairs to change while they ate breakfast. I was in my room changing into my ninja wear and then there was a loud clatter downstairs. I rushed downstairs only to find the most annoying thing in my house ever. It was Orochimaru. I was seething in anger. I let out my killing intent and attacked him. God, it felt like only minutes had passed when I finally tied him up in ripe and one he can't escape from. I turned back around to see everyone with their mouths hanging open as if it was impossible for me to do what I just did. Minato's pav. Point of view from the fight. Well, I never expected to see this person enter my house and let alone come through my F-King window. Naruto came sprinting down the stairs and when he sees our guest his killing intent was to deadly no one, and I mean no one was moving. But Orochimaru had to go and attack him, didn't he? What a complete idiot, I thought. I just stood there and watched Naruto easily evade the attacks he came at him with. 5 minutes had passed and Orochimaru was starting to get on my nerves. I was low on Chakra and he could nearly move. Naruto looked at him with dead, lifeless eyes that can piece your soul and make you lost in them instantly. Finally, after Orochimaru did a fire style just you, he collapsed. Boy, was I glad that that was over with. Naruto tied him up and just left him there. Should I call the Ibiki over and have him questioned? I asked. Naruto nodded his head and his killing intent was finally subsiding. Naruto's pav. Once Dad had asked that question, I let my killing intent subside and then looked over at the clock. Well, would you look at that, it is already 7:50. I replied with a yes to my dad's question and then dragged my whole team over to where the Chunin exams will be. The Chunin exams should start at 8 a.m., meaning we have 10 minutes to get there. We arrived at 8 a.m. on the dot and made our way up to where all the people were and entered. The 9 rookies were all there and walked towards us. They started a conversation, but I snubbed it out and started talking to Kurama. Naruto's mind. Naruto's pav. Say, Kurama, do you sense that? I asked. Yeah, I do. Should I tell you who they are and how many tails? Kurama answered. Yes, please enlighten me on who they are, I said. Okay. The guy's name is Gaara. He holds the one-tailed Shukaku. They are sand ninjas, Kurama answered. Okay, well, I'll see you later, I said and came out of my mind. Out of Naruto's mind. Naruto's pav. I came out of my mind to see that this guy was standing in front of me and the rest of the rookies. He said, I am a leaf ninja. My name is Kabuto. I have ninja cards that can tell me all about you and how many missions you have done over the year of being a Gunin. By the way, this is my 7th try. Quote. Okay, we all replied. So anyone want to know about anyone, Kabuto? Yeah, I do. What do you have on Naruto Uzumaki, Rock Lee and Gaara, of the sand? Sasuke asked. I thought, **T what do I do? Then it came to me. Maybe I should burn my card. Wow, we have an eager one to find out about someone else. So first is Naruto Uzumaki, Kabuto said. Just as he put some of his chakra into the card, my picture started to appear. I quickly grabbed the card and burned it with a small fireball. Just you. I turned around and Kabuto said, hey, that's mean. You don't need to burn my card to keep whatever was on there a secret, do you? I'm afraid I do. If I don't, I might have something some people try to come and get because of something I contain where no one will ever know unless I tell them. I said, full of mystery and riddles in my sentence. I watched all their puzzled looks, but when I looked to my sister I can see that she had already known what I said and just smiled at me. Well, if you don't mind, we will continue with what we were doing before you burnt my card, but on the other two, Kabuto said. Kabuto took another one of his cards and up came Rock Lee of the Hidden Leaf. Name. Rock Lee. Village. Hidden Leaf Village. Missions. 96C rank, 32B rank and 15A rank. Made these up, I couldn't remember how many they did. Best points. Good in Taijutsu. Weak points. Bad in Ninjutsu and Genjutsu. Okay, next one is name. Gaara of the Sand. Village. Sand. Missions. 0C rank, 50B rank, 30A rank. Made these up as well. Best points. Great with sand and ninjutsu but rarely uses it because he focuses on the sand. Weak points. Not so good with Genjutsu and Taijutsu. If those are the only people, I will be going back to my team, said Kabuto. Well, it looks like you lot are ready for the exam. Your first exam will have 10 questions. Only 9 of them will be on paper. The 10th question will be after 45 minutes of you focusing on the first 9 questions, said Ibuki. Well, it looks like we have any interesting bunch this year anyway. Ibuki also added. And if you have already watched the exam in the anime of Naruto, then you should already know what happens. Also, same places in the anime. Everyone took their seats and waited for Ibuki to say begin. Begin, said Ibuki. Everyone turned over their papers and started to answer the questions. I knew what he wanted us to do, so I casted a just you that helped us gather information. I memorized the answers and wrote them down. For the next 35 minutes I was just sitting there. Ibuki noticed this when he said we have 20 minutes left till the 10th question. He singled one of the watchers. The guy appeared behind me and asked if I was done. I just simply nodded my head. Then he went back to his spot and continued to watch us. Uni has said the rules. This is after he has said them. Ibuki yelled, Alright, time for the 10th question, but before that, is there anyone who doesn't want to participate in this last question? Quote, several of them teams out there, hands up. I had officially had enough and slammed my hat on the table and yelled, will you hurry up with the 10th question already? Ibuki smiled and said, are you sure you don't want to back out? Will you have the chance? I smirked and said, no way in hell would I back out just to come back sometime this year or next. Now hurry up before I do something I really do want to do. After I said that, most people had the courage to actually stay and hear the 10th question. Ibuki said, here's the 10th question. You all passed. Everyone's face was priceless except that of me and my sister's face, Mito. Then this girl called Tamari said, what was the last 9 questions for then? I sighed. You could have heard it all throughout the exam room. Oh, it seems you know what I was up to, Naruto, said Ibuki. Of course, Ibuki-san, I know what you're thinking, I reply. Oh, then you don't mind explaining to them, do you? Said Ibuki. Oh, do I have to? I asked. Yes, unless I make you do my paperwork for a week, he replied. At that I shivered. I really don't want to do his paperwork at all. I sighed and shunted myself to the front. Okay, where should I start? I said. Why don't you explain what the first 9 questions were for? Said Tamari. Oh, those. Okay, those were for testing your ability of stealth and serif, if you can observe what happens and what to do when it comes to a really big problem that you can't find a solution to it for, I said. They looked at me, then I looked at Ibuki and said, I suggest you tell them all to get down now or get injured with glass. You should know Anko. Well, she is going to burst through that window in 5, 4, 3 inches, I said. Everyone get under the tables now or get seriously injured. Ibuki yelled. Everyone instantly hid under the tables. 2, 1, I said. As I said 1, she burst through that window and looked around at the remaining teams under the table. Ibuki, why are they under the table? Asked Anko. Well, since Naruto here could tell when you would burst through the window, I told them all to take cover. Ibuki answered. Oh, okay, Anko said. Wait, did you say Naruto? Anko asked. Yeah, he is currently trying to get out that window you came through, Ibuki said and looked at me. Oh great, I thought, and sweat dropped. All of a sudden I got grabbed by a pair of arms and held tightly. I could barely breathe. Anko. Can't breathe, I said through breathes. She let go of me and I was gasping for air as I was on my knees from being squeezed to death. Naruto. Long time no see. What have you been up to? Anko asked. By the time I got to the window, everyone was in their seats again. Well, aside from going into depth about my osei to my team and still get beat because of what I hold, nothing new. What about you? I answered and asked. Anko was seething in anger when I couldn't take it anymore. I sighed and hugged her and said, Anko, calm down or you could set that mark off again. Be careful and don't worry about what I told you. You should know by now that I don't get injured that easily, besides it's not like I can blame them for what I hold, so I let it happen and half the time I don't feel it. Now stop giving off your killing intent before the second exam, will you? Otherwise you can deal with him in my head for me, or I could train a bit with you until you drop. Quote, I soon realized that I still had all the other people in here watching us. Then I thought, since Anko is still a bit shaken and angry, I might as well say it for her. Alright, those who have passed go down to the forest of death for the second half of the exam, I said. With that said, I looked at Anko and hit her on the head. I then yelled, Anko, if you don't snap out of it this instant, you will train until you drop, then you can deal with him for me, so if you don't want to, I suggest you start the second exam right now. With that, she snapped out of it and headed back out the window into the forest of death. All the teams that passed were waiting for the instructor at the raining ground. Their instructor, or as HSHE would like to be called, as Anko, had appeared with a pile of sheets in her hand and said, All right, those who are taking the second exam, please come and take this paper. All it is that I won't be responsible for your deaths. Quote, after she said that, everyone took the sheet and put their signature in the sheet. Slowly, one by one, everyone handed their sheets in with their signature on it. Team 7 were the first ones to hand the sheet in. Anko then said, Now that all of you have handed the sheet in, I will now go over the rules for this test. Rule 1. You only have 5 days in there. Rule 2. You have to have 2 scrolls of the opposite before going into the tower. Rule 3. You are out if one of your teammates are killed. Rule 4. No killing the people inside the forest of death, but you can injure them. Rule 5. No opening the scrolls before you're in the tower. Those are the rule. Also, we will not provide food for you. You will have to hunt for your own food and water. Line up and get a scroll. Go and stand by a gate and get ready for the test. Have fun in the forest." Quote, they all headed over to the people in charge of the scrolls and got one. Team 7 got a heaven scroll and stood by gate 7 and waited for a noise to signal that the test has begun. The signal had just gone and everyone entered the forest for the most frightening experience of their lives. Naruto spav. A few minutes passed and Sasuke, Sakura, Mito and Naruto had gotten quite deep into the forest. "So when do you think we will get to the tower?" asked Sakura. "Honestly, we should be there in a couple of days if there are no obstacles that get in our way," I said. We all continued walking until we ran into 3 sound ninja. Oh great, as if this F*** King Day could get any blow die worse. Sometimes I hate my Fu King luck. Our whole team went into hiding. While we were talking a while back, I handed each of them a wireless earpiece so that we could contact each other if in trouble or don't know what to do next. At this moment in time, this is where our earpieces come in handy. I was brought out of my thinking when Sasuke started talking to me. "Naruto, what do we do now?" asked Sasuke. "Hold on, I need to find out if Sakura and Mito are listening to this," I replied. "Okay, you try Mito, I'll get Sakura," said Sasuke. "Mito, put your earpiece on so you know what I am about to say to all of you," I said. "Okay," was Mito's reply. "Naruto, can you hear me?" asked Sasuke. "Yeah, I got you loud and clear," I said. "Good, Sakura now has her earpiece on and can now hear our conversation." "What about Mito?" asked Sasuke. "Same with Mito." "Alright, now that you all can hear me, all of you make your way over to the tower. I might be late because of our guests that kindly showed up for us to get their Earth Scroll. Basically all I'll do is take it out of the pocket and start making my way over to the tower. Me taking the scroll will be like Kakashi Sensei's test, but it will be a lot easier because they are genin whereas our sensei was a jonin, remember? If you understand the plan, let's put it in action," I explained. We all remember and the plan is in action. "Mito and Sakura are halfway there and I am quarter," replied Sasuke. "Okay, I have got the scroll and heading there now," I said, and no one contacted each other again. 2 days later, Naruto's POV. I had arrived at the tower. I looked around to find my team. I finally found Sasuke at one of the towers. I walked over to him and all of a sudden he jumped, so in reflex I got into a defensive stance. I asked, "Sasuke, what's wrong? Why did you jump? Are there enemies around?" Quote, Sasuke finally got back to himself and said, "Naruto, there are no enemies around. I jumped because it came out of nowhere, and what's wrong is that you came out of nowhere and greeted me. Seriously, what is wrong with you? Normally you would shout that person's name to let them know you're here, you idiot." Quote, "Oh, no, there is nothing wrong with me, but I normally just walk up to people and then greet them. I don't call out their name in case I was followed or there are enemies around," I replied. Sasuke just sighed, and then we went into the tower and I found Sakura and Mito standing there talking to each other. I decided to break their conversation and said, "Guys, since we are all here, let's open the scrolls and hurry and pass." After I said that, I put the scrolls in the ground and opened them to find that our sensei had popped up out of the scroll to congratulate us for passing the second half of the exam and that we can more into the third half. We started heading back to the village to wait for the third half of the exam to begin. It had been 3 days since we passed the second exam and we are now on the training ground where the third part of the exam will begin. We are all excited to find out what we need to do to pass to get to the rank of a Chunin. Naruto's POV. It is time for the third part of the Chunin exams to begin. Ibuki came down and said, "Well, we weren't expecting this many to pass the second exam, so we will have to do some elimination rounds." Quote, "Yes, right of the bat and into the fire," said Mito. I sigh. Can a sister be any more sadist than she already is? I thought. Looks like the first pair has been decided. I can't wait till they get this started. Since we are in the elimination rounds, these pairs will be chosen at random. The first pair is Sasuke Uchiha versus Nagi. Sound Ninja. I forgot their names. Will the contestants please come down? Both Sasuke and Nagi came down and then Ibuki said the rules. Alright, since you two are the first, the rules are that you win if your opponent collapses or if you make them surrender. I will call the final say in it. Ready and start. With that, Sasuke and Nagi jumped away from each other and started their fight while Ibuki disappeared up to the safe area that all other people are in so that they don't get caught up in this fight. Sasuke's POV. My battle with this Nagi person had started, and so far all I got was him charging at me so he can win, but I think he is underestimating me because he caught me then said, "Surrender," but I switched myself with a clone of myself, so I clicked my fingers and poof, the clone went. It went on like that for a few more minutes until I got bored, so I brought out my kunai and attacked him. At this moment in time I had clicked my fingers and the clone disappeared and I came out behind him, but because he was a sound ninja I had to create a diversion to get him distracted from me. I got him distracted from me for a few minutes. It looked like it had worked. My last clone was defeated and he was celebrating his success, but what he didn't know was that I was right behind him with a kunai out ready to attack. While he was busy with his celebration he had no clue as to where I had pointed my kunai. I got behind him then placed the kunai to his neck. Now he had stopped moving and was waiting for the next move. I spoke, "Give up and admit defeat already. You can't get out of this." Quote. He sighed and said, "I forfeit." With that said, Ibuki declared me the winner of the first round. Naruto's POV. Sasuke was declared the winner of the match that he had with Nagi. Now the second round is between Mito and Yuka. Ibuki yelled, "Will the contestants for the second round please come down so that we can begin this match?" Mito appeared and a few minutes later the waterfall ninja Yuka had appeared down by Mito and so the fight began. Mito's POV. I was fighting this waterfall ninja called Yuka, and from what I could tell Yuka is a girl. I wanted her distracted from me so I could land a surprise attack on her when the time was right, of course. I have created 2-3 cage bunchins, Shikara clones, so that could distract her. My first cage bunchin had started a battle with her, and at the moment it seems that my clone is focusing solely on earth ninjutsu, but I couldn't care on what just they focus on just so long as they buy enough time for me. The battle between the clone me and Yuka was getting quite feisty. Blow after blow, justu after justu. Yuka was mainly focusing on water-style justus, so it was easy for me to avoid all her attacks, but I did 1 or 2 fire-style justus only because they take a lot of Shikara and the Uchiha clan mainly focuses on fire styles. Yuka was distracted by all the clones I made, so it was easy to get behind and make her surrender. Ibuki came down and said, "Mito Uzumaki Namikaze is the winner of this match." Quote. I walked back up to my teammates. "Well done, Mito," is what I got from Sasuke and Sakura. I looked around for Naruto but he wasn't there. Naruto's POV. I had walked out of the stadium where Mito was fighting Yuka because I already knew who was going to win. Next it is Sakura and Ino, both of them are from the village hidden in the leaves, so it may be interesting, but I bet both of them will draw, so who cares. I only walked out because I had this feeling that I should, and most of these feelings I have are true, so I did as the feeling said, or more like sensed. I sat under a tree and gradually I got drowsy and then I was covered in the blackness of unconsciousness. Dreamscape. Naruto's POV. I opened my eyes to see that I am floating inside the stadium. I could see the fight, and as predicted they ended in a draw because they were both low on Shikara and fainted. I was still just floating until I felt like someone was trying to wake me, so I closed my eyes and fell asleep. Out of Dreamscape. Naruto's POV. I woke up to see that Sasuke was trying to wake me up. "What's the matter, Sasuke?" I questioned. "Your match is up, Naruto," stated Sasuke as if he wasn't trying to be friendly at all. "Okay, thanks," I replied with a small smile. "By the way, how long was I out for?" I asked. "Oh, you were out for about 45 minutes because you missed the whole fight if Sakura and Ino, so yeah, pretty much since before their match began and when it ended. Now hurry, otherwise we will be late to your match," said Sasuke. "Okay, thanks. Well, I'll be going now," I said, and within that 1 minute I was at the arena waiting for my opponent to come down and begin this fight. I got into the stadium once again and it looked like I was up against Gaara of the Sand. From what Kurama has told me, it seems that Gaara has the one tails also known as Shikaku, so he is also a Jinchuriku. Nice to know I'm not the only one here with an animal in me. Can't wait for the fun to begin. Naruto's POV. I entered the stadium and was up against Gaara of the Sand. I can't wait for the fun to begin. It looks like we are outside. Great, that means if I push the right buttons I can change his mind about how to love and show emotions to the ones he cares about. With the Hokage. Minato's POV. It was the start of the battle between the two Jinchuriku, but before they start I think I'll call a meeting with one of their council people about their plan to attack us when they have started the match. I signal Kakashi to get the Sand Shinobi's attention so I can discuss with them about their plan and how they have been fooled for. Tilde 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 time skip tilde 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 tilde. I have one of their council people in my office called Baki. I signaled my Anbu to check them invade there are any weapons that shouldn't be on them. I sigh. I hate to tell you this Sir Baki, but your Yondaime Kazakage has been murdered by an old friend of mine's student. His name is Orochimaru and he has many criminals to work with him. I know this is a lot to take on and I know that you people are very loyal to your cage, but your Kazakage is a person behind a mask and has ordered you to do it without noticing the changes at all. We did have Orochimaru in one of our prisons, but because of this year's Chunin exams we had to take extra precautions because of the children that contained tail beast in them. Quote, I look up at Baki and see that he is having a great difficulty processing all of this information that I have given him. His expressions change from confused to shocked to anger to ready to kill. I know that all the cages don't lie, so now that I know I will assemble all sand shinobis and make sure that they only have Kana ninja following them when we make this public to all shinobis that you conclude safe. If the other ninjas strike we will be there to back you up as much as we can, said Baki. I nod my head towards him as an appreciation of thanks and he does the same. I smile a small smile, but it is a grateful one. With Naruto and his team. Naruto's POV. So that guy that I took down is called Orochimaru and he is after Sasuke, I say. Kaka-sensei only tells us now, says Mito. And that there is a netting with sand shinobis, says Sakura. At this point in time. Ends Sasuke. Well, I suggest you lot hurry up because I sure as hell don't want Ero-sen to come and get us to go to that meeting with force, I say, and they all start running over to me. Kakashi-sensei shunshined us to where the meeting is taking place. Me and Mito yell, sorry relate dad. Kaka-sensei has only just informed us if this 5 minutes ago, says Sakura. With a smile on his face the entire time, and Sasuke. Right now that you are all here I will inform you that your Yondaime Kazakage is dead and has died by a student of an old friend of mine. I am sorry to give you this awful news. Quote, Two-san's dead, why would we care, said Kankuro. He's dead, said Tamari. I couldn't care less about him, said Gaara monotone's voice. Tamari elbowed Kankuro. What was that for? I mean he wasn't that much of a father to us. He even tried to kill Gaara, said Kankuro. Tamari just looked over to Gaara and then looked down. Gaara just ignored all their looks until Guy and Lee started to yell. Guy yelled, oh, his cool and spicy attitude is just like Kakashi's. So youthful. Quote, I agree Guy-sensei, so youthful, yelled Lee. Everyone's sweats dropped or anime fell at this. Mother is scared, said Gaara. Everyone turned to him looking shocked. What in the blinking nine hells was that, asked Kurama. That even scared Kurama, I said. Everyone now turned to me with a pale face. Can I have them in Saturdays and Sundays? I have some tight-lipped people, asked Ibuki. When Naruto and Gaara came out of their blank faces the first thing said was, that should do it. You should be able to get some sleep, if not tell me and he will be in trouble. Okay Gaara, said Naruto. Okay thanks, but I still have a question for you. Why are you helping me? Thanked, questioned Gaara. Oh, now that is a simple question to ask, silly, said Naruto. Now the answer to that question would be because we are sort of like brothers, because we have the animals in us that causes us pain, not that I can blame them, but since the tailed beasts are all brothers and sisters, that makes us and the other Jinchuriku out there brothers and sisters, but in a different way, explained Naruto. Oh, well I thank you for that, but I don't like the stares we are getting at the moment. Are you able to do something about it? Asked Gaara. Naruto held a confused face for a few minutes, but he could feel the stares on his back as well. Oh, those stares, thought Naruto. Naruto then nodded his head and turned around. Okay, I know you may think we are weird, but is there any reason to stare at us as if we're strangers? Said Naruto. Everyone now looked at the floor until Minato spoke. Okay, so Naruto, now that you two are out of your minds, are either of you two going to go outside to release your pain and anger? Gaara nodded his head and Naruto did the same. They both walked out together and then the people in the room heard crashing, banging and breaking sounds all around them. Oh, also a word of advice, I don't advise you at any of you to go out of this room until those two come back, and you will hear a lot of those noises you just heard, said Mito. They all nodded their heads and waited for them to return. Tilde 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 time skip tilde 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 tilde. Naruto and Gaara came back, but they both had cuts and bruises all over their body. Everyone looked at them shocked by what had happened to them. No one dared spoke but the fourth Hokage Minato. Naruto and Gaara, what happened to you? Questioned Minato. Oh this, said Naruto and pointed at himself and Gaara. Well, we sort of went wild about not having some important information and our childhood and about what happened. So in the end me and Gaara went and spared against each other. Explained Naruto with a small grin on his face, and even Gaara had a small smile on his face. Temari and Kankuro were shocked by the small smile on Gaara's face that in the end they let out a small smile too. Everyone gave a small sigh of relief when they saw the Sand siblings all smiling together. Next day, Naruto's POV. I woke up today and headed downstairs. I have no idea what the time is, but to me I feel like I have slept in when I shouldn't have. I take a shower and get dressed. I am wearing a black short-sleeved t-shirt with black trousers and my navy blue shoes. I then look at the clock and it read 8:05 a.m. Oh shit, I slept in. I was supposed to meet Gaara and now I bet he thinks I am not who I said I am. I rush out the house and head to training ground 16 to meet Gaara. I was lucky cause by the time I got there he was still there. I sighed and walked up to him with a small smile. Hey Gaara. Sorry I am late, I slept in because of all the ranting we did yesterday and because I got a late night's sleep, I said. Gaara looked at me in surprised. I knew it, I bet he thought I wouldn't come after waiting here for 15 minutes. Great, now I have to get him to try and trust me again. I sighed, how much more can this day get any worse? I looked back at Gaara and gave him another small smile, and this time he tried to return this smile. I grinned because this is the first time he attempted to smile back to me. You came Naruto. I thought you would be like everyone else and lie to me, Gaara said and looked at me with small tears in his eyes. I guess he must be really hurting if he thought I would lie to him. Did you really think I would be that heartless and leave you here all along when it was me who wanted to talk to you about the animal inside you and me? I said with a small smile, but it wasn't a fake one, it was a genuine one that people rarely see from me. Gaara looked at me and gave me a smile, but I knew it wasn't a fake one when I saw it, so we were both smiling happily with each other. I looked at him and started talking about why I wanted him here. So Gaara, will you tell me what it was like in your village with you being the only Jinchuriku there and no one else understands your pain? I asked. Gaara nods his head and started telling me about it. Gaara's POV. Flashback. I was always bullied and lied to that it hurt so much I started to do self-harm. At the beginning it was once every 2 to 3 months, but as the bullying got worse and me finding out I had killed the only person who loved me because my dad was the Kazakage, and then me finding out what I hold and why I was hated by everyone including my own siblings and father. I started cutting myself every day. I did 2 to 3 cuts on my wrist every day. One when I wake up, one when I started training, and the last one that I usually didn't do was when I went to bed, but there would be times when I did do it because it hurt so much. In the end I wanted to die so badly that I cut off of my emotions, so the only emotions I could feel were hate and bloodlust. I didn't care who I killed, but because I would always get a headache when Shukaku talked to me about him wanting to see blood, and I would lose it because he would take control but would never transform into his actual self. I so wanted to be set free of all this turmoil I was feeling that every day I would get lost, I thought, and cut myself even more. This is until yesterday when I found out that I wasn't the only one to have felt like this. I was so glad to have met you that I didn't want to head back without knowing about your past because I wanted to see if you had something similar to mine. Present time. Naruto's POV. I was so shocked to hear about him cutting himself that whenever he mentioned it I would cringe at the thought of seeing it all. Gaara looked at me with teary eyes and I couldn't stand seeing him like this, so I did the only natural thing that you would do in these situations. I hugged him. I let him cry until he stopped. I wasn't shocked that he would cry because over all these years he has had no one there for him but himself, and it pained me to see one of my kind like this. No one else would understand what it is like to be a Jinchuriku unless you actual are one like me and Gaara. I sighed and untangled myself from the hug. Gaara, do you want to hear my past? I asked him. Gaara nodded his head and so I began the tale of my past. Naruto's POV. I started telling Gaara all about my past and his face was one that I had seen many times before and one that I want to erase from my memory, but when it comes to telling someone else about your past you wouldn't be surprised that their expression is one of anger and hate. After telling the past. Naruto's POV. I think I am starting to regret telling Gaara about my past because right about now he looks like he could murder anyone. I should ask if he slept well. Gaara, last night did you get a good night's sleep? I mean without having Shikaku trying to take over your body. I asked. Yeah, I slept very well thanks to you. I also need to thank you for letting me sleep. I haven't rested like that in ages. I would like to have another night like that, but sometimes I don't think it will happen, said Gaara. I sigh and look at Gaara and told him, Gaara, if that does happen you need to tell me so I can give Shikaku a piece of my mind and spank him. Hopefully he is listening to this so he knows that I will not hesitate to spank him if he doesn't let you sleep. I think we should go and get dressed because your brother and sister are outside my front door and I get the feeling that my teammates are on their way. Are you as well? After I said that I got out of bed and started getting dressed. I finished getting ready and turned around to find Gaara is already dressed. I smirked, let's go and give them a bit of a fright. I snickered and walked over to the front door and opened it. Author's POV. The 4 people standing outside my front door jumped back a bit surprised that the door opened before. They walked in but kept their guard up as if something would come out and scare them. Just as they were about to take their shoes off so they can enter the house. They heard chatting in the kitchen. They looked at each other and nodded their heads. They removed their shoes and slowly without making a sound stood outside the kitchen door. Sasuke and Sakura on the right while there was Temari and Kankuro on the left. They poked their heads in to find that Naruto was dressed and making breakfast while Gaara was setting the table up for the food. There was small talk going between the two but because they were so far from them they couldn't hear what they were talking about. The 4 at the door looked at the table to find more the 2 plates on the table. Gaara's POV. While I was setting the table up I could already sense that Temari, Kankuro, Sasuke and Sakura were all standing outside the door. I smirked and started having small talk with Naruto while he was making breakfast. I set up 4 more plates because I knew Naruto would make a cage bunchin and drag them in to eat breakfast with us. I let a little chuckle out at that thought. Naruto turned around and smiled at me. Then he asked, so what are you chuckling for, Gaara? Oh, just the thought of you sending a cage bunchin behind the 4 at the door and dragging them in here. I replied to his question. Naruto said. I like that idea. I think I will put that thought into action, Naruto said with a grin on his face. I smiled back at him in return. I can feel their shocked faces from the grin Naruto had and the smile I had on our faces. Naruto's POV. I liked the idea of what Gaara said. I at this point had already made enough breakfast for the 6 of us. I already had 2 cage bunchin behind the 2 groups outside the kitchen door. I signaled the 2 bunchin to drag them in here and that is exactly what they did. Gaara was chuckling at the fact that his brother and sister had just been dragged into a kitchen by some unknown source that they couldn't figure out. I smirked at Sasuke and Sakura's faces when they were put in a chair at the table. Okay, mind explains why you 4 were hiding outside the kitchen door? Asked Gaara. Smirk. Oh we didn't know URG how to enter someone else's house without their permission so instead we hid outside the kitchen door. Explained Temari. Okay, I will allow it this once but when you enter this house again call for me or Mito and we will come, I said. They all nodded their heads. I just HNED in response. After we all ate we headed to the training grounds. I had no reason why but when we arrived there Mito, Kakashi sensei and Gaara's sensei was there already. I at this point raised a questioning eyebrow as if to say what is going on here. Mito just smiled back at me. So I just went along with it though I was slightly worried because of the face my sister was making. Sigh. So Nissan, what is going on here since Gaara's sensei and our sensei is here and you're by the look on your face it means trouble alright, I said. My sister looked at me with fake hurt in her eyes and said, my Naruto you sure know who to make your sister upset and from what you said yes I am planning something so be quiet and go along with it. Oh and before the sand go back we will be training with them till it is time to go. Quote. I just sighed and went to sit under a tree and then my sister can explain to the rest about what is going on and how she is going to work the whole thing while I'll sleep until she says my name but my senses are always heightened so I know when someone who isn't in our group is near. Right about now my senses were going haywire so I was on high alert. I walked over to Mito and tapped her shoulder. At this everyone stopped what they were doing. What is it Naruto? Mito asked. I was still on high alerts and was looking around but I couldn't find anyone close enough so I could spot them. So I turned to Mito and said, Mito be on high alerts mine are going like haywire and I am getting a terrible headache from it. It shouldn't be only me who can sense them but Kurama and Gaara as well. As much as I hope it isn't because we have the tailed beasts inside of us I think that might just be the case and me and Gaara are their prime option to get a hold of. So we are going to head over to the Hokage Tower and warn Dad, but there will be an attack when we are gone, but I can't say when. Just remember what I have told you. Once I finished, I grabbed Gaara and headed straight for the Hokage Tower to warn Dad of what might happen soon. Me and Gaara arrived at the Hokage Tower and walked in. I kicked down the door and walked right up to my dad's desk. "Dad," I yelled and grabbed a seat and sat Gaara down in that. Once I finished that, I turned to my dad, who looked over at me and Gaara questionably. I just sighed and said, "The Akatsuki are almost here and they want me and Gaara for the tailed beasts in us," in a matter-of-factly tone. He looked shocked but soon recovered and said, "No matter whether you boys like it or not, you are not to leave this village at all, and there will always be Anbu around you, so if you feel someone is watching you, that will be the Anbu, but when the two of you Naruto go home, make sure Gaara is with you, and then the Anbu will leave, but they won't if no one is home, so you have to be on guard always, boys," Dad said in a firm voice, and I then knew that this was serious business. After me and Gaara left the Hokage Tower, we could already feel we were being watched, but at this point in time I couldn't care, just so long as my family and friends don't get caught up in this messed up crap of ours. We returned back to the trading grounds to find that our teams were just sitting on the ground. When they finally noticed us, they jumped up and ran to us and started bombarding us with questions. The only ones who didn't is Mito, Kakashi and Gaara's sensei Baki. THSTA all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.